Sergeant, please start your recordings.
Computer recording started.
Cloud recording has begun.
Backup is rolling.
Sergeant Martinez, you may begin with your opening statement.
Good morning and welcome to today's remote New York City Council hearing of the Committee on Transportation. At this time, would all panelists please turn on their video? To minimize disruption, please silence your electronic devices. And if you wish to submit testimony, you may do so via email at the following address: testimony@council.nyc.gov. Once again, that email address is testimony@council.nyc.gov. Thank you for your cooperation. We are ready to begin.
Thank you, Sergeants, and everyone at the council that worked so hard to be sure that not only myself and my colleague and representative administration and the advocate get the opportunity to be part of this remote hearing, but also to all New Yorkers also had the opportunity to be able to follow how we discuss this important issue. Good morning. Thank you all for joining the Committee on Transportation's virtual hearing today on the oversight topic of TLC Medallion Relief Program, and also and how TLC is working in supporting the block car and delivery sectors. First, I'm going to turn it over to our committee counsel to go over some procedure items and also including acknowledge that my other colleagues who are here at this hearing.
Thank you, Chair. First, I would like to recognize the following council members: Councilmember Rose, Councilmember Cabrera, Councilmember Holden, Councilmember Koo, Councilmember Brooks Powers, Councilmember Menchaca. I am Jessica Steinberg Albin, Counsel to the Transportation Committee of the New York City Council. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone that you will be on mute until you are called on to testify, when you will be unmuted by the host. Please listen for your name to be called. I will periodically announce who the next panelist will be. The first panelist will be from the administration, Commissioner Aloysi Aradia Jarmoshuk from the Taxi and Limousine Commission. During the hearing, if council members would like to ask a question, please use the Zoom raise hand function, and I will call on you in order that you have used the Zoom raise hand function. Unless otherwise indicated by the chair, we will be limiting council member questions to 5 minutes, including answers. Chair Rodriguez, I would like to turn it back to you for your opening statement.
Thank you, Jessica. Today, the Committee on Transportation, Today, the Committee on Transportation convenes remotely to hold this important hearing on the Taxi Limousine Commission's Medallion Relief Program and supporting the black car and livery sectors. As we know, the TLC is charged with the regulation and oversight of taxi cabs, which include yellow taxi cabs, street hail liveries, for-hire vehicles, commuter vans, and paratransit vehicles. Over the last several years, the for-hire industry has experienced tremendous changes with the introduction of app-based for-hire vehicles in the city. The number of licensed for-hire vehicles has dramatically increased in 2011. This has led to a decrease in the number of medallion taxi trips in the city and a decline in the daily fares collected per taxi medallion. As we all know, taxi medallions have seen a rapid decline in value. In 2013, the average sale price for corporate medallions and individual medallions was about $1.2 million and $890,000. 6 years later, the average sale price fell to about $165,000. As medallion value decreased, so did the number of fares collected, causing many taxi medallion owners unimaginable financial hardship. Many owners, drivers, and advocates have called for the city to create a taxi medallion debt forgiveness program. That was part of the whole work that we did when the council passed a bill creating the Yellow Taxi Medallion Task Force that put a specific and a strong recommendation. Recently, the TLC announced the creation of a $65 million taxi medallion owner relief program to help financially distressed medallion owners work with lenders to restructure medallion-related loans and provide up to $9,000 in additional monthly debt payment assistance. This is a good initiative, but this is not enough. And that's why I would like to ask City Hall to add an additional $93 million over the next 30 years. It means around $3.2 million every year in order to help more medallion owners and to help to alleviate this crisis. As of September 27, 2021, the TLC commissioner indicated that 26 participants had received over $5 million in debt forgiveness and cancellations, with an additional 900 participants waiting to be served. The administration believed that the program could result in a total of $500 million of debt forgiveness of thousands of drivers. Although this sounds promising, we have heard many advocates and drivers led by the New York Taxi Workers Alliance that the financial assistance provided by this relief program is not enough. Just this week, members of all New York City congressional delegation, also including Senator Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, sent a letter to the mayor supporting the creation of a new program such as that proposed by the Taxi Workers Alliance, and also supported by all members of the Medallion Task Force that worked for months before COVID. Many believe that the city failed to prevent the medallion debt crisis. It is now our responsibility to ensure that we fix this issue and help the many drivers who are still facing in financial hardship. Many of them were the one providing the service during COVID, and we have the responsibility to provide all financial support that we can to bring them back. During today's hearing, the committee hopes to gather additional information on the Medallion Relief Program to determine how effective it will be in helping more medallion owners. The committee will also discuss the problems that the traditional Black card and liberal sectors are currently experiencing and explore ways in which the city can support these services. After we hear from the administration, we will hear from medallion owners and the medallion owners and representatives of taxi drivers too, to learn more about how they have been affected by this crisis and whether they believe the existing TLC relief program will provide the support they need, and to hear from them why they also believe that by adding additional $93 million over the next 30 years will expand the numbers of medallion owners and taxi drivers that will benefit from this program. Before we hear from the administration, I will now have our moderator and committee counsel recognize, well, we did that one, but if there's any other members with us, and then call on the administration to testify and administer the oath.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to acknowledge that Council Member Miller has joined us. I will now call on TLC Commissioner Aloysi Heredia Jarmashuk to testify. At this time, I will administer the affirmation. Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this committee, and to respond honestly to council member questions?
Yes.
Thank you. You may begin your testimony when ready.
So good morning, Chair Rodriguez and members of the Transportation Committee. I am Aloysi Heredia Jarmuschuk, Commissioner and Chair of the New York City Taxi and Limousine Commission. Thank you for inviting me to speak with you about the TLC's progress implementing the Medallion Relief Program, the MRP, as well as our efforts to support the Black car and livery sectors. First, I would like to discuss the current state of our taxi industry, which has continued to gain strength as the city recovers from the COVID-19 pandemic. As you know, businesses and tourists are returning to New York City, and passenger demand for taxi service is steadily increasing. For the week of September 26th, taxis made 739,964 trips, a more than 1,300% increase from the week of April 5th, 2020. During the same period of time in 2019, pre-pandemic, taxis made around double number of trips, showing that there is still room for significant growth. In fact, there is more demand for TLC licensed transportation than the current taxi supply is meeting. Of the 13,587 licensed yellow taxis, approximately 6,600 are in storage, meaning they are not being operated on the streets. Of the medallions held by owner-drivers, the vast majority are on the road and providing passenger service. So the difference right now is that the individuals who own medallions that are non-fleet are the ones that are in large part operating. TLC is working with owners to get taxis out of storage and back on the road, picking up passengers to meet the growing demand for service. Importantly, the amount of money earned by taxis consistently operating on the road has significantly increased and is approaching pre-pandemic levels. Last month, the average fare box earnings for an active yellow taxi was $7,080 per month, plus $1,133 in tips. A year ago, it was less than half of that. Taxis making over 25 trips a day are now bringing in an average of $10,019 a month, plus $1,710 in tips. Those are robust fare box earnings and indicate substantial recovery in the yellow taxi sector. In addition to the growth and demand driven by the recovery, the pause on new for-hire vehicle licenses is also working to strengthen the taxi industry market share. Before the change in local law that empowered TLC to stop new for-hire vehicles from flooding our streets, more than 2,000 new cars went on the road every month, creating a race to the bottom for TLC licensed drivers and worsening traffic congestion. Since the cap was successfully implemented, TLC has seen the attrition of approximately 25,000 for-hire vehicles, meaning there are 25,000 less for-hire vehicles than there were 20 months ago. We anticipate additional attrition over time, which we believe will help achieve a more equitable balance across all segments of the industry, including traditional livery and black car bases. While the taxi sector is rebounding in tandem with our city's recovery, too many taxi medallion owners have experienced financial distress. We are all aware that the industry has faced tragedy, technological change, disruption, and uncertainty over the past several years. The path of this reality was paved by those who did not act when market forces and bad actors took advantage of owner drivers. And it pains me to see how ill-served they have been by a system that treated the medallion as a speculative asset. Today, a number of taxi owner drivers face unsustainable monthly loan payments. Solving this debt crisis is the single most important issue that we must resolve. Doing so will unlock our ability to take aggressive action to increase economic opportunity and quality of life for medallion owners. The TLC is working to determine the exact number of medallion owners who have debt, as well as to assess how much of this debt is unsustainable for each individual owner. As you know, the local law 111 of 2020 established the Office of Financial Stability to monitor and evaluate the financial stability of the medallion industry. Over the summer, the TLC released a survey to medallion owners in an effort to meet the requirement that any person who has an interest in medallions submit an annual financial disclosure. While these surveys are voluntary, they have given the TLC the opportunity to gather personal data that is not publicly available. As we continue to receive survey results, the TLC can rely on financial information received from those participating in the MRP for data on the scope of medallion debt. Since April 2021, approximately 1,000 medallion owners have applied for the MRP. The 90 medallion owners who were approved to receive grant money as of yesterday, October 7th, had a median original debt of around $400,000 with monthly payments of approximately $2,500. Through the Medallion Relief Program, they were able to achieve a median average debt forgiveness of nearly $200,000, supported by monthly payments of $1,600 or less. These figures change daily as more loans are restructured. Through the distribution of the MRP funds, the TLC will have a data-driven assessment of the true extent of the medallion debt for individual owners in New York City. Alleviating this debt is crucial to improving the health and longevity of the iconic New York City yellow taxi industry. I would also like to add that the 90 medallion owners who have been approved through the program have achieved a total in $14 million of debt forgiveness and cancellation. So that is the multiplier effect of the grant program. The TLC Owner Driver Resource Center opened remotely during the pandemic in the spring of 2020. Among other resources, the center is a space where owners and drivers can access free financial counseling and legal services related to medallion debt. This includes help with reviewing loan terms, renegotiating financial agreements, challenging debt collections or judgments, and filing for bankruptcy if appropriate, and halting bankruptcies where appropriate. Lawyers from the New York Legal Assistance Group provide these free legal services at the center to all medallion owners who arrive there. Over a 7-month period after the center opened, TLC learned that medallion owners working with the center and with means for a down payment for refinancing were able to achieve improved loan terms and better financial stability. TLC also learned that a number of medallion owners were unable to afford the down payment needed to refinance. During this time, TLC also engaged in numerous discussions about how to address the debt issue with the industry, stakeholders, including medallion owners, drivers, advocates, attorneys, and financial experts. Ultimately, the city secured $65 million, and Mayor de Blasio and the TLC announced the MRP on March 9th, 2021. In the ensuing months, TLC published proposed rules outlining eligibility criteria for the MRP and held a public hearing and voted on the rules for the program. Additionally, TLC embarked on a procurement process and signed contract with Pursuit, a financial institution with rich experience with COVID-19 relief programs and lending to small businesses, in September to distribute grants under the program. The MRP is designed to give individual medallion owners who have 5 or fewer medallions a critical tool to restructure loans, reduce principal on those loans, and lower monthly payments. As previously noted, over 1,000 people have applied to participate in the MRP and are in various stages of debt restructuring. The Owner-Driver Resource Center is working with these owners and approximately a dozen lenders to significantly reduce debt and loan payments and to achieve settlements where appropriate. The program provides a $20,000 grant to all participants to be used as a down payment to help restructure medallion-related loans. In effect, we are recreating what we saw work for owners when the Owner-Driver Resource Center was established. This $20,000 can mean hundreds of thousands of dollars off loan principal. Through the multiplier effect of the grant payments, a $65 million program can achieve as much as $500 million in debt forgiveness. Some medallion owners will reach settlements owing nothing, while others will attain over $100,000 in debt forgiveness. Furthermore, we are aware that the industry has not recovered to pre-pandemic levels, and owners may still need assistance keeping up even after substantially reduced payments. To help, the city is providing participating medallion owners with an additional $9,000 to cover loan payments. This means that if a restructured loan monthly payment is $1,600, with a medallion owner's contribution combined with the city's debt service assistance, the monthly payment for the first year will be $850 a month, well under $1,000. The TLC Medallion Relief Program offers an owner-driver first model that is tailored to the individual financial situations. It focuses on the owner-drivers, not the fleets, and it takes into account the personal circumstances of each medallion owner through a client-centered and holistic approach. Unfortunately, a one-size-fits-all approach, even ones that sound good in theory, cannot adequately account for the different circumstances of medallion owners. Additionally, the MRP allows the medallion to be valued based on the income it generates for owners. Price fixing the medallion value at an artificially low price, as has been suggested, treats the medallion as a speculative asset and deeply threatens its long-term value. We owe it to the hardworking owner-drivers who have invested in their medallion to restore this asset rather than fix a set price, which would distort the market far into the future. Furthermore, proposals that call for a backstop for all medallion owner debt for 30 years would mean New York City taxpayers are assuming all risks for all borrowers and lenders. This is true regardless of whether the borrower is an individual owner-driver or a large fleet owned by a multi-million-dollar corporation, or if the lender is a large financial institution capable of covering its own losses, or was once the predatory lender that exploited medallion owners in the first place. That is unworkable. What is working is the MRP. And as I shared earlier, as of last night, 90 medallion owners have been approved for grants and will receive close to $14 million in debt forgiveness. Furthermore, over 1,000 medallion owners and a dozen lenders are in various stages of working with the TLC Owner-Driver Resource Center to restructure loans and lower monthly payments. If the need is there, we anticipate being able to help over 2,200 medallion owners, and we hope to allocate all $65 million in funding as soon as possible, with a goal of reaching all applicants by the end of this calendar year. The yellow taxi is one of the most iconic symbols of New York City, and a healthy taxi industry is critical to the city's recovery. We are heartened to see the industry showing a lot of strength, with trip volumes and fare box earnings rising substantially during the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. Beyond our work on the MRP, TLC has met with owners, drivers, and other industry stakeholders to develop a yellow taxi strategic plan, outlining recommendations for innovation and growth for the sector going forward. And of course, the MRP is up and running now, and it is delivering the relief that hardworking taxi medallion owners urgently need to achieve financial health and stability that they deserve. We owe it to them to ensure the medallions continue to be an important asset and an irreplaceable part of New York City's transportation network, and the MRP does just that. In addition to the TLC's work with the yellow taxis, we are also focused on supporting the traditional Black car and livery sectors. A great conduit for us to identify best practices, new policies, and recommendations is through the Black Car and Livery Task Force, which you are a member of, Chair Rodriguez. The task force began meeting in June after the last member was appointed. As of today, the task force has 2 more scheduled meetings to discuss the recommendations that will be put forth in a public report. We hope to publish this report before the end of the year and look forward to continued collaboration with this committee regarding implementation. With those recommendations remain in development, we can share some preliminary themes that have come up during our meetings with the task force. These include issues related to pre-arrangement and payment, educating licensees and car services bases, enhancing regulation for leasing companies, coordinating across sectors on insurance and workers' compensation, the feasibility of internal and external advertising, increased use of wheelchair accessible and battery electric vehicles, and parity among the sectors, including with respect to inspections and vehicle retirement. The task force has also discussed unmet demand in the traditional Black car and livery sectors and the potential for new FHB licenses to meet that need. We are reviewing this recommendation carefully since we must ensure that the city does not lose crucial gains we have made in reduced congestion, increased driver pay, and a more balanced number of vehicles across the sectors that the TLC regulates. Beyond our work with the task force, TLC is conducting a regulatory review, a top to bottom review of all agency rules and regulations. We have received input from our licensees to identify ways to modernize, strengthen, streamline, and otherwise improve and update our rules and policies. TLC will also hold a public hearing this fall to gather additional input for our review. As always, we welcome ideas from the City Council and on how we can improve operations and best support our licensees and the industry at large. So thank you again for the opportunity to speak at today's meeting. I'm happy to take questions and engage in a fruitful and productive discussion with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry, Chair.
That's okay. And I'll put it back to you.
Commissioner, your screen seems to be a bit narrowed. Is there any way to fix your camera?
Are you unable to see me?
We can see you, but it looks like you're in a circular lens.
Yeah, I don't know that I can adjust it.
That right there actually is a little better. As we can see you though, so perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Sure.
At this time, Commissioner, if you could please stay unmuted if possible during the question and answer period. And I will now turn it back over to Chair Rodriguez for questions. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica. I have many questions, but I'm going to be asking it probably 2 or 3 first, and then calling back my colleagues that they have questions so that I will be back after. Commissioner, first of all, I appreciate all the dedication that you have trying to bring a solution to this crisis. And again, this is not personal at all for anyone. You know, I personally been members of this committee since 2009, where I served as a member up to 2003 and been chairing this committee from 2013 to today. So we know that we are today as a result of accumulation of many years where we have failed. And I think that we got to the moment of this crisis where now we have the responsibility to think outside the box. We feel that the program, the MRP, is a good start, but we don't think that this is enough. The first question, do you have has OMB released all the $65 million to TLC at this moment?
The full $65 million is allocated, correct?
Okay. So what is the universe, or how many of those medallion owners you feel that TLC has the capacity to work, especially if you're aiming for whatever we can do from here to the end of this administration?
So far, based on the applicants to the program and our calculations on the potential number of medallion owners that need debt assistance, we feel that the $65 million should be enough to cover that population based on our
How
data
much-
today.
Okay. How many medallion owners do you think that can be covered and be able to be helped as a
Sure.
result of the program?
So that's a two-part question. If we look at the $65 million by the numbers, as I shared in my opening statement, that's enough to cover 2,250 loans. We have 13,587 medallions. We have roughly half of those medallions are owned by fleet owners, and the other half is owned by individual owners. So the universe of individual owners is approximately 6,000 owners. If we consider that not every one of those 6,000 owners is holding debt, we can probably deduce that 2/3 may be holding some debt. So approximately 3,400 medallion owners potentially have some level of debt associated with their medallion. And that debt can range anywhere from $1 to over $1 million. And so we think that the medallion fund is adequately sized when you look and make considerations around those numbers.
But how many individual medallion owners can get financial support under the MRP with those $68 million?
Based on the data that we're seeing right now, we believe that every single medallion owner who is facing insolvency should be able to be helped through the $65 million fund.
So we have a average of how many individual medallions owners do we have right now?
6,000, sir.
6,000. So you feel that with the $68 million, assuming that every single individual medallion owner is being helped, that $68 million will be enough to cover that universe?
No, sir. We have 6,000 medallion owners, and not every single medallion owner is holding debt. We know that there are several thousand medallion owners that do not have any debt associated with their medallions. And so what we approximate is that roughly 2/3 of that universe may have debt. That does not mean that the 2/3 of that universe is facing insolvency. The debt issue can range on an individual basis from $1 to over $1 million. So on average, we believe that the 2,250 loans that could be potentially serviced through the $65 million medallion relief program is sufficient for the universe of medallion owners who may be facing insolvency.
This program is structured to help individuals that own less than 5 medallions, right?
Those are the parameters, yes, sir.
Yeah. So whatever data we're looking at is based on working with that group. I just feel that, and again, we have to, I'm all about focusing on getting results. And that's why for me, I appreciate all the hours and time that you've been putting as the TLC Commission to work on the yellow taxi crisis, and also with delivery and black card task force, and always being accessible to speak to them when it's needed. So I thank and appreciate that. And I just feel that, I just hope that we can come to the table where we can bring the OMB director, City Hall, you from as a commissioner, the stakeholder, from the leaders of the Taxes Alliance, our office, and have a discussion with an open mind, revising the good pieces of the MRP and how also City Hall should be having an open ear to also hear the other proposals that include an investment additional $93 million over the next 30 years. So again, I'm not even going after putting you on the spot. I just believe that, it is a fair call. The crisis is so big. This is the result of so many years where we have failed in the past on the current and previous administration to the industry. And I feel that beside what we can go over the details from your testimony, asking questions to you and hear from the leadership today of the Taxes Alliance and the taxi drivers, I hope that we also can have a follow, having a roundtable conversation with all the stakeholders, having an open mind to go over the MRP program, but also being open to hear also the details of the proposal, asking City Hall to invest an additional $93 million over the next 30 years, which means around like $3.2 million every year. So this is, yes, I want everyone to know that that's the most important thing that I want to bring to the table. We know that we can ask as many questions, but I also know that this crisis is being for so many years. I think that the MRP is a good beginning. I know that you have put up many hours, you have put your dedication here, but I also want to see how we can put a roundtable conversation. Will you be open to advocate and talk to the rest of your partners at City Hall to get that roundtable conversation happening?
Chairman, you know that I'm always available and accessible. Everyone at the TLC is available and accessible. We're always happy to meet with all stakeholders to discuss the best interests of the industry. And I'm happy to continue to connect with all of you on same.
I just add the other two pieces that the other members of City Hall, including the OMB director, should be asked to be there with us too. And again, I'm not putting on the spot to say yes or no, because I know that you have to consult, but this is a recommendation that I personally have been making to City Hall. So as we will hold this hearing today, I think that, and hopefully we can make progress getting details from any questions. I also want to give a heads up that for me, that roundtable conversation must happen, because I think this is only a beginning. What happened with those individuals who own from 5 to 10 medallions? I know some of those who are struggling too, who use the value of those medallions to buy a house, and bank is looking at the house as a collector and try to go after those properties too. So how can TLC identify a way not to go? I think that those who own the 500 medallions, the 1,000 medallions at some point, they have all the investment, all the portfolio. Many of them, they are good investors. So not everyone are bad investors. But I feel that the financial crisis is not the same. And I think that the city is coming back after COVID. And we should also be able to bring the taxi industry back, as we, hopefully by next year, we will be back as a city. So what is the plan to hold those individuals who also own from 5 to 10 medallions?
So the universe of individuals that own more than 5 medallions is very small. And so if anyone fits that dynamic, is suffering or facing insolvency, they should reach out to us at the TLC so that we can evaluate their situation. The good thing is that it's a finite group of people, and the majority of those are corporations and not individuals. And I want to just remind everyone that the MRP is very focused, laser focused on the individual medallion owner, who is facing insolvency. But luckily, to your question, we have very few medallion owners that have less than 5. And as I said, if there is somebody who is facing insolvency, they should reach out to us so that we can evaluate their case.
But the program being structured to work and help financially, provide financial assistance to medallion owners that own less than 5 medallions, right?
It's focused on individual medallion owners with a focus on owner drivers, the ones who are working in their cars every day, and individual medallion owners that are not corporations. And those entities that tend to have 5 medallions or more tend to be fleet companies and not individuals. But if there is let's give you an example. If there is a female medallion owner who had a family of taxi owners who now finds herself having inherited 6 medallions and is facing insolvency and wasn't a driver and it just has accumulated these assets and needs help, we will evaluate that case on an individual basis. So the MRP has maximum flexibility to help the small person, the individual medallion owner who needs assistance. And so if there's somebody who meets that sort of criterion that you've outlined, I would like for them to reach the TLC so that we can take a close look at their particular situation.
Does the TLC support a city-backed guarantee program as a strategy to lower the debt to no more than $145,000 and $800 per month?
The TLC launched a $65 million program to help individual medallion owners to be able to restructure. And from what we are seeing right now, based on our data, what we have launched is working, and it is not necessary at this time to create an artificial price or to price fix the asset, or to try to right size every single medallion owner into the same debt construct. Again, our medallion owners have varying levels of debt. Through the 90 medallion owners who have already restructured, the debt ranges, the original debt ranges from $22,000 to $744,000. So I don't think that you or anyone might suggest that we make somebody who has less than $145,000 in debt to raise them to $145,000. So we have to look at all of these cases individually and refinance and restructure them individually.
You know, there's a level of disconnection when it comes to, and again, I don't want to call it just as you or as when I address any agency about commission or any agency, but this is not level of cooperation. When a specific recommendation came out from the Yellow Taxi Medallion Task Force, and City Hall come hours before releasing a plan, not engaging the city council into the discussion, and thinking that we will be only weakness of the plan when there's other recommendation, that have been putting on the table. And I know that you have to play your role as a commissioner, but City Hall have failed on not engaging the council before they release this plan. And we are asking, demanding City Hall to come back to the table to revise together this plan, and they propose to add an additional $93 million over the next 30 years. Cannot be wrong that all Congress members of New York City, Senator Schumer, and many other leaders are saying, we support such initiative. I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to call the now my other colleagues to ask questions. We're going to put in the time in 5 minutes, and after they finish, then I will come back to other questions.
Thank you, Chair. Before we turn to council member questions, I would like to recognize that we have been joined by council member Levin. We will now call on council members for questions in the order they have used the Zoom raise hand function. Council members, please keep your questions to 5 minutes. The Sergeant at Arms will keep a timer and will let you know when your time is up. We will first hear from council member Holden, followed by council member Menchaca, followed by council member Brooks Powers. Council member Holden, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Commissioner. I know it's a tough situation. Like you said, it's really based on an individual assessment, and can get quite complicated because obviously the different medallion owners are paying different prices for obviously their loans. But on the average, what are the loans being reduced by? I mean, I think you said there are 90 medallion owners have been helped so far.
Yes, council member. 90 medallion owners have been helped so far. The original principal balance owed ranges for those 90s between 22,000 and 744,000, and the outstanding principal percent reduction ranges from 10% for obviously the smaller principals owed to up to 77% in debt forgiveness. And so the new principal owed after the restructure range from 0 for settlements to under $300,000 for the larger loans. And
So,
$14 million has been forgiven for that group of 90.
right. So generally, the 90 medallion owners that were helped so far, did you speak to some of them or any of them about, how was the process? How could it be improved? Are they happy? Will they be able to work with the restructuring? Did you talk to any of them?
We've engaged with several of them, and everyone that we have connected with of the individuals who have come through the resource center, they're all very relieved and happy to be on this path, and grateful.
Okay, and you mentioned a number of 2,300 medallion owners that you expect to help. Is that accurate?
So we expect to help all individual medallion owners who need assistance, but because we've never been able to figure out what the debt issue is or how many medallion owners actually need assistance, because these were all private deals.
Right.
There's no data on this. What we're seeing based on the intake and through smart mathematical assumptions is that, we have 6,000 owners, not everybody's holding debt, and everybody that's holding debt is not insolvent. So we are assuming that 3,400 or so people, and that is at a high range, have some level of debt, and that about 2,250 of those may be facing insolvency. And as we move through the Medallion Relief Program and have intake, we are getting data. And I think that a silver lining here is that at the end of this program, and as we move through the program, we will finally have answers on what the total debt issue is, and how many medallion owners need help. And I think that I cannot wait until we get to that point so that we have something actual to fall back on in terms of what was the impact of the shift in market share after the apps ascended.
Yes, but it sounds like the city is coming back, and like you said in your testimony, that it looks like we're in for brighter days, at least with not only the MRP, but and helping the medallion drivers, but that we're getting more obviously more customers, right, for the medallions and so forth. But my final question is, step by step, how does staff at the Owner Driver Resource Center help participants navigate their medallion debt and receive funding through the MRP?
So it's a labor-intensive process. We have a website and/or email address that every medallion owner who needs can visit. It's available in all languages. We schedule an intake appointment first to make sure that the medallion owner is a medallion owner and that they have all their documents in order, including the loan documents. They are then paired with a financial and legal advisor from NILAG for free. All of these services are at no cost to the medallion owner. And then once all of the, I guess, financial assessments are done.
Time expired.
That's all right. You can continue. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Thank you. The attorneys and the lenders get together with the borrowers and begin to negotiate better terms. And once the medallion owner is comfortable and we know that the new terms are financially viable from them, and an agreement is executed. And then at the end of that agreement, which has to meet the parameters of the program to significantly reduce principal, to reduce the interest rates, to reduce the monthly payments, and or entirely settle the debt, then things are finalized. And at the end of that, if the medallion owner is still holding debt, which is significantly reduced in comparison to what they were holding originally, then we will help provide debt assistance if they need it to ensure that the monthly payments are manageable for the first year.
Well, that sounds interesting. Sounds like it's we can solve this problem. So I thank you, Commissioner. Thank you for your hard work, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Holden. We will next hear from Councilmember Menchaca, followed by Councilmember Brooks Powers. Councilmember Menchaca, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Thank you. And I want to say thank you to the chair, the committee that's here listening, offering some new ideas. And Commissioner, thank you so much for your time tonight or today and the other time where we spent an hour talking about all this. And I want to do some follow-ups with you that really center us in the demographic that we're speaking to with, I think, some of the most need. And those are our aging medallion owners and immigrant with some kind of immigrant experience. And so to get a sense from you, if you have done the research, any elder immigrant owners and drivers that we're talking about in your analysis?
So as we move through the applicants, we are flagging and looking for our older medallion owners that are 65 years old or older. We understand that they have circumstances that are very different than somebody who is a 30-year-old driver or a 40-year-old driver or a 50-year-old driver. And we want to make sure that they are taken care of and get the attention and the supports that they need. And for instance, 2 weeks ago, I had an elder medallion owner who owed about $25,000 in his debt total, and we're actively working with him and his lender to reach a settlement so that he doesn't owe any more money at the end of his restructure. So we're very, very committed and focused. We will not forget about our older medallion owners who have devoted their livelihoods to this work. They will not be left behind.
Awesome. I should have started with, I know that you are committed to them. My question was number. How many are we talking about in anticipation? And is that something that you have data around and or are collecting?
That is information that we're collecting. We're isolating the medallion owners who are coming to us who are of an age older than 65, and we will have that data in time. But the overall population of our licensees that are older than 65 is quite large. But we don't know just yet how many of those are medallion owners who are facing insolvency. We will learn that in time.
Okay. So that's a big flag that I raised last time, and I just want to raise it here for this committee and as we move forward. The second area is really that just has continued to come to light. Yesterday, we even heard the protest, the kind of ever-growing and everlasting protest that's outside City Hall while we were at Stated. And I think some of us engaged them. And I think there's a real problem here that we're not talking about that's beyond the MRP plan that you are here to push and get support for. But the fact that there's just a lack of trust with this community. And when I engaged them with new information that I had from you, it was just clear that it didn't matter what the program is. The kind of classic misstep of the de Blasio administration across the board, like this is just how de Blasio has run his administration for the last 8 years, is, you know, if you build something for us without us, it's not for us. And that's just classic. That's just like his DNA that has seeped into all agency operations, especially this one. So how do you plan to confront that? Because I believe that what you have created is good for many, not all, many of the drivers, but they will never come to you the way that you have asked and need them to come to the table to negotiate and sit down. That's the poison pill here. And I'm just realizing how much that's the biggest issue. You can kind of tout the procedural and access to the 60-some million dollars left, but that, how do you get across that? How are you planning to confront that directly?
I think that we have to continue to build bridges and trust. And I think that as this program continues to provide debt
Time
relief,
expired.
debt relief
Commissioner,
and for,
please finish answering.
as the program continues to ramp up and provide relief, I am confident that more people will come forth, or that everybody who needs to come forth will come forth. I think that is evidenced in the 1,000 individuals who have already applied for the program, and anyone else who needs, we're here and we're available. And I will not stop until we have exhausted all of our outreach abilities.
Okay, Chair, can I ask one more question?
Yes.
Okay, just the last question. I'm actually walking to Senator Schumer's house. We have a big protest and rally in support of immigration reform, but Schumer has supported the opposition plan, and he's not alone. It was mentioned earlier today. What is that worth in this conversation to really force the mayor to force the city to sit down and come up with an alternative plan to the point that the chair made? Like, is that worth anything to offer something that looks more like what they're offering? And is that something that can be part of these negotiations as we move forward? I think a gesture in that way will help build the trust that you need to build something that they help create with their DNA. So yeah, what is it worth that all these other elected officials have signed on to this alternative plan? And I mean, if they're wrong, then I think now is the time to hear that all those elected officials that signed on are wrong and why they're wrong, so that we can take that back and we're engaging NYCWA and medallion owners.
No, I'm really glad that you brought this up, Council Member. It is critical that we all acknowledge that everyone is coming from a place of wanting to provide medallion owners and drivers with financial relief supports. And I think that we can all agree that there are multiple ways to solve the debt issue. And I think that we as I just on a personal note, as a daughter and as a parent, I've always been taught and teach that we can disagree and still be friends and still be productive. And the congressional delegation wants to ensure that we are providing medallion owners with the relief that they need. And we believe that the MRP is providing that. What the congressional letter said was that they would like a guarantee of medallion loans in exchange for firm commitments from the lenders to restructure medallion loans to a viable market of the value of the medallions. And the city's plan achieves commitments from the lenders to restructure the medallion loans without a guarantee. And the delegation is asking that the city provide owners the needed resources to restructure their medallion loans, and the city's plan is achieving that. And if I may suggest, what we really need now from the congressional delegation is to help advance Congressman Meek's bill to exclude debt relief from gross taxable income. That's the next hurdle in this debt forgiveness and cancellation process, regardless of the plan. And we need to make sure that we continue today, regardless of what happens, may or may not happen in the future. Our program is up and running right now. We have 90 people that got help over the last 14 days. We want to get to the 1,000 people before the end of the year, and we cannot delay, we cannot stop, we cannot halt. We have to get the money out because these people need help right now, today. And then once they are restructured, we want to make sure that they have the protection from the federal government around taxation. And so if you can, support that in your conversations with the delegation, I would be much obliged.
Thank you, council member.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Chair.
And Jessica, before calling the next council member,
Please.
Commissioner, we definitely, when you look at the number, as you say, how many, at some point we have 15,000 medallions in the street. How many of those 15,000 are now held by TLC because, we have not been able to sell it? People are returning. From those 15,000, how many are under TLC?
Chairman, I just want to clarify that the TLC by law only has 13,587 medallions.
How many?
And
13,000?
13,587 medallions. Half of those medallions are owned by fleets. Half of the medallions are owned by individuals.
Okay, so you keep saying, how difficult it is from TLC to, there's some data that you don't have it yet because, not because of lack of effort, not because of lack of staff, but because, their relationship basically with the private sector, the bank. But we are talking about then, like 63,000 are individual medallion owners. What is the exact numbers of individual medallion owners?
It's approximately 6,000, sir.
Well,
are you asking a question about storage numbers, or are you trying to ascertain the number of medallion owners who are holding debt and the population of those who are holding debt that are facing insolvency? Is that what you're asking?
No, first the total. You say that by law right now, TLC has 13,587, and half of them are individual medallion owners. So it means that if we divide it split by half, this is like almost 6,300 individual medallion owners.
There's roughly 6,000 individual medallion owners.
Again, Commissioner, I'm following what you say. TLC.
I just want to make sure I'm following what you're saying. I want to make sure that I answer your questions.
Okay, you just say TLC, no TLC, you just say by law, there are 13,587 medallions. And you say half of them are individual medallion owners. Is that the case or is different?
Roughly half of the fleet is owned by individual medallion owners. That is the
Okay,
case.
so if it's half from 13,587, then it's not yet 6,000. It's like 6,260.
We're saying roughly half are, and what I shared is that we have 6,000, around 6,000 individual medallion owners. That's the number, 6,000.
But is that by law that half of them must be individual medallion owners?
No, sir, it's just a construct. Half of the medallions are owned by fleet and half of them are owned by individuals. That's
Exactly.
been the evolution of the industry.
Okay, Commissioner, and half of 13,587 is not 6,000. It's more than 6,250.
So more precisely, sir, more precisely, we have approximately 6,000 individual medallion owners. So I want to clarify on the record for you that roughly 6,000 medallions are owned by individuals.
Okay, let's use including a word. Let's quote what you said. There's 13,587. Half of them are individual medallion owners. How do you come out to the conclusion that only 3,250 will be the average number that will need help from the financial relief program?
I see where you're asking now. So I will try to explain this again. And just to clarify, I think you may be familiar in your tenure, which is far longer exceeds me, that by law, it used to be a 60-40 mix, but that was no longer the case. Now, let's try this again. We have 13,587 medallions. Roughly 6,000 of those are owned by individuals. We know that we have several thousand medallion owners, individual medallion owners, who don't have any debt. So based on that analysis.
Do we have a number? Does TSC have the number of how many doesn't have any debt?
Roughly 2,000 or so do not have any debt. And we're gathering that information as we move through the medallion relief program. The very critical thing to understand here, and that needs to be articulated, is that debt around medallions were all done as private transactions. And for a very long time until now, we have not had a mechanism for tracking individual private transactions and understanding exactly what each individual medallion owner has done with their medallions. Thankfully, through the City Council, we have established an Office of Financial Stability whereby medallion owners now have to submit financial documents to the TLC. And in time, we will have all the data points that you are asking whether we have or not. We have a lot more data now than we did before. We have a lot more data since March 9th than we have ever had before.
I have a question.
And we will get that information for you.
I have no question that we being able to collect more data. The council has played an important role, passing many law mandating TLC to work around those data collections. So I know that we've been working together between the council and City Hall to move the agency to be what it is. Still a lot more work has to be done.
Agreed.
And I just say that, it's like, this is not about, what anyone, regardless of the role that you can have, that I have, that anyone have at City Hall, from the $1 million budget director, we have been thinking about a crisis that is affecting so much the industry can be a structure only to hold with $65 million, an average of 3,250 individuals. And we will not come out with a solution right now because there's a different approach, and City Hall has never engaged the council before this plan was released, except few hours before it went out. So I go back to my council knowing that if we want to be closer, we have to sit on the table. The next council member that has questions, Jessica, please.
Thank you, Chair. The next council member to be called on will be Council Member Brooks Powers, followed by Council Member Levin, followed by Councilmember Miller. Councilmember Brooks Powers, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Thank you, and thank you, Commissioner, for your testimony today. Just a couple of questions, just in the interest of time, I'll ask all my questions and wait for your response. And so I know that we were talking also about the average debt for the owner drivers, which I think is largely believed to be $500,000. And in the plan, I'm just curious to understand, how was a livable wage factored into that plan? How was it rather accounted for? Also, I would like to know, the city comptroller has stated about the proposal by the New York Taxi Workers Alliance is fiscally sound. I'm interested in understanding why TLC continues to say that it's not feasible. Also, would like to know how lenders have reacted to the MRP. And just in terms of the type of outreach that's being done to the TLC, the owner drivers, how is TLC like really doing a grassroots operation to make sure that they understand that there is a resource center and the type of services that are being offered? We know that a large population in terms of the delivery drivers are individuals of color who are immigrants. They are head of households in many instances, homeowners here in communities like the one that I represent. And so just wanting to know that the agency is thinking outside of the box and really working in overdrive to making sure that they're addressing language barriers and connecting the impacted owners to these resources that are being offered through your agency. So thank you. Those are my questions, Commissioner. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, first, I was typing your questions because I want to make sure I don't miss any of them. I appreciate your very thoughtful questions. I'll knock out the less complicated answers out of the way now. All the lenders that we are aware of that have that our medallion owners have loans with are at the table. I have not heard from a single lender that they are not interested or willing to participate in our program. And that is, very, very critical to the success. And of the 90 restructures that we've done over the last couple of weeks, we have a good mix of the dozen of lenders that that our medallion owners have loans with. So again, I'm not aware of any lenders who are not participating in the MRP. Everybody is very committed to moving away from this debt issue for a variety of reasons. Obviously, for the medallion owners to be in a healthier financial situation, it is critical, but the industry needs for this debt issue to be resolved so that we can attract new capital, focus on rebranding the yellows, and move forward without the negative risk profile that the industry or the sector has right now. In terms of the conditions for livable wages and earnings, the conditions are far superior now than they have been in the past 20 months. The fare box is the big indicator of what is possible. And as I said, right now, we're seeing on average $7,000 to $10,000 plus tips being generated by the fare box. Our medallion owners who are driving are getting 30 to 40 trips a shift. Just for perspective, 18 months ago, that was 11 rides per shift. There was a huge disproportion in the industry that was caused by the influx of vehicles. We have the cap, thank goodness, in place, and we have seen an attrition of vehicles, and all of those things combined, and with the huge reduction in debt that we will achieve through the MRP, we are in a much better place for our owners to be able to make not just a livable wage, but get on the path to being able to save money and not be burdened
Time expired.
by unmanageable debt.
Chair, I just asked if we could just have a few more moments just to get the rest of the response. I know.
Yes, Commissioner, you can finish it. Yours.
Thank you. With respect to outreach, we have continued and will continue to employ a variety of communication methods for medallion owners. We have emailed all of our medallion owners about the Resource Center and the MRP. We have held webinars specifically for medallion owners. We've done them on a borough level and an individual level. We have calling trees where we have reached out to medallion owners whom we haven't heard from. We want to make sure that we capture the entire universe. And any suggestions that anyone may have with how we can do better outreach, we're open to that and willing to try things. There are some council members who we will be partnering with to come to their district to get the word out. But we've done, I think, pretty well. We've reached 1,000 people, and they're there and coming to the Resource Center. And we, as I said, we will not rest until we reach everyone who needs assistance.
And just, I'm sorry, Chair, just one follow-up question if I can. Chair.
Yes, you may ask a question.
Thank you. And Commissioner, I know you mentioned in terms of the fare box and the increase. Do you think that's due to right now the reduction of cars that's on the road in terms of the competition of the drivers right now, and that after the pandemic has kind of moved and run its course and things continue to open up, that could change? And if so, like, what would that impact be?
I think that that right now we have, what we're seeing is a sufficient amount of supply for the demand. And as the city continues to reopen and the passenger ridership or the transportation needs continue to grow for the city, and we've seen consistent growth since the quarantine last year, that the numbers will continue to go up. So we are not anticipating a downshift. If anything, we're expecting to get back to the 1 million rides a day that we had before the pandemic. And again, the conditions for more market share for the yellow taxis is better than it has been since the onset of the apps. And so there's more market share for yellow taxis. So we don't anticipate a loss of market share. We're anticipating an increase in market share.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, colleague.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. We will next hear from Council Member Levin, followed by Council Member Miller. Council Member Levin, please begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Commissioner, for your testimony today, and Chair for conducting this hearing. Commissioner, I want to ask specifically the letter from our congressional partners to, I think, Mayor de Blasio regarding these matters the other day specified the idea of the city providing some sort of guarantee on the loans, or kind of a backstop. So the idea being that if the city were to say that to the lenders that they would guarantee the loan at whatever value, $150,000, for example. If in the case that a borrower defaults, that guarantee has some value in the equation within the on the loan terms to work in the borrower's favor, to make for more favorable loan terms, or drive down that negotiated principal that is happening anyway. So, for example, if somebody's loan goes currently under the MRP is going from 400,000 to 285, and a guarantee, this kind of backstop would could help bring that further down to say 225 or something along those lines. Why not do that? Because this was a recommendation that, I spent a lot of time on this issue in a task force that we did at the council, working with pretty much every in my working group, and we had pretty much every perspective on this question represented in that working group. We met many hours, and so this was one of our recommendations. Why not do that?
That's an assumption that has not been tested. And the Medallion Relief Program is modeled after a tried and tested process that we have seen has worked. Prior to the MRP being launched, we had several, about 100 or more medallion owners renegotiate their loans independently, and they were able to achieve a $200 million write-off in that tranche. We know that providing the down payment for restructure achieves all of the things that we have all been speaking about achieving: lower principal amounts owed per the medallion owner, lower monthly payments close to or under $1,000, and lower interest rates and fuller amortization schedules. We're happy to continue the conversation, but we also, we would appreciate as well if consideration could be given to the MRP. I don't know that the task force considered the program that is underway right now, that is tried and tested, and that is what is available to the medallion owners. Right now, today, we are providing funds, and I really think that we should be talking about the existing program and how to reach the 1,000 people that we need to get to before the end of the year. We know it works. It's worked for the people that came before the program was fully established. We know that it's working for the 90 people who have gotten $14 million in debt forgiveness, and we know that we can achieve up to $500 million in debt forgiveness through this program.
No, I hear that, and I'm just trying to think through if there's and I appreciate the kind of the constraints under which the program is working. TLC can't unilaterally offer a guarantee behind the loans. I think that and frankly, you're working within rules promulgated on this program that don't include such a guarantee, and so you're issuing loans, or you're issuing the down payments to renegotiate the loans now. So I appreciate all those limitations. I acknowledge that, and when we did our task force, it was prior to the MRP. So it was we were talking through any options that we thought available. Some of which are similar or analogous to what the MRP is doing. We had thought of including a CDFI, and the MRP is using a CDFI. So it just struck me that if that's the request that's being put forward, and is being put forward by our colleagues in Congress as well, I'm kind of one of the reasons why it was an appealing idea in the first place. I mean, this is an idea that I've been thinking about for a number of years now. It kind of has the ability of it's a set aside. I mean, the city has to be prepared for the liability of every single loan defaulting, right? So, because if you're going to guarantee every loan to a certain price, then you have to, you have to be at least theoretically prepared to pay out on all of those guarantees. That said, if you're driving down the principals on these loans, combined with an increase in the value that we're seeing now of the medallions, I don't know if they're not going to increase to $1 million. We all know that, but they're stabilized for all the reasons that you've spoken about and all the work that you're doing at TLC to stabilize those medallion values. As those medallion values are stabilized and the loan principals that are on these existing loans are driven down further, or the terms get better, or the interest rates go down, based on, it can be that those benefits could be increased and further leveraged by a guarantee. The risk of default goes down because they're now have this asset, the borrower has the asset and is paying a lower principal on it. And so it's while the asset is actually stabilized. So I think that it's worth kind of considering. Now I don't really have the answers to how that framework or this tool would fit into the existing program. Like, I don't know the answer to that because the existing program is subject to its current rules. As you've said, you're looking to basically complete the program by the end of the year. So that is a very tight time frame. It's just as I met with you earlier this week, I've spoken to offices of members of Congress, spoken to Taxi Workers Alliance. It's just, I think, worth considering if and how this tool could be leveraged, because while it is a liability, a very large liability, the risk itself of having to pay out that liability is very low. And I think that's a pretty reasonable, I'm not an actuary, so I don't know how to gauge that, but it seems to me logical that risk is low of default because people will want to hold on to their asset that's now stabilized. I'll turn it back over to the chair.
Okay. Thank you, council member. I know that as you elaborating, it's more, based on conversation that we have, as you and I were the co-chair of the Yellow Taxi task force, and as you heard before, re-elaborating that beside this hearing today, we need to sit down at City Hall with the commissioner, with the OMB director, with the stakeholder to look on how this program is working, but also to be open to the proposal on coming out from the Riders Alliance, from the Taxis Alliance, calling for City Hall to add an additional $93 million for the next 30 years. So I feel that, it's important to have this hearing, to have this conversation, but I think that we need to also keep moving forward, keep planning, and the best way to do it, as I mentioned before, I also have at City Hall that we need to get time to sit down in a round table at City Hall with the commissioner, with the OMB, with the Taxes Alliance and other stakeholders with an open mind to see what is working with this program, but also to be open to see what other thing we can do. There's this crisis, as I said before, is too big, too long. This is a good initiative, but we believe that we can do more. So thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I do want to just acknowledge all the work that that the commissioner and her staff have done in creating this plan. I don't want that to go unremarked upon. This effort has been very massive and is very much working in the right direction. So I just want to make sure I acknowledge that.
And I agree with you. And that has been my point from the beginning, that I'm not holding this here and saying that program is not working. We had to start in zero. For me, this is a good beginning, but we should be open for all the ideas on how to make it better. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Council Member 11. We will now call on Council Member Miller. Council Member Miller, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Commissioner. So just a point of clarity on a couple of issues. The Chair and my colleagues have had really good questions around this issue. Could you confirm that the average debt, as it was mentioned by my colleague, was 500,000? Is that accurate for individuals?
That's a number that's been stated a lot. That is not what we are seeing right now from the applicants that have come in that we're helping. We're seeing the latest average around 350K with a median of 415. But the latest average is well under 500 at 350K. Again, we haven't closed deals for the full list of people that have come through, so that can shift. But right now, from that first group, it's thankfully is far lower than $500,000. That's good and welcome news.
And could you just, without really expanding in a very little bit of a limited time, could you give me a number of lenders that exist within the industry? Could you just give me an average number of the lenders that exist?
It's about a dozen. It's about 12 dozen. It's a small world.
Okay, right. So it's a small world, and so really securing this relationship or having a relationship with these lenders to work with them to make the adjustments to mortgages and negotiate new rates is more manageable than a larger universe. I had this experience in dealing with the council's distressed mortgage buyback program for the many HUD and Fannie Mae owned distressed mortgages. And so I don't know if you were familiar with that, but the city actually, along with not-for-profit, holds those mortgages and negotiated more favorable terms themselves. So I would say that what they're suggesting is not unlike in terms of guaranteeing and holding the mortgages. A lot different because the debt doesn't seem to be as high. That being said, to return the debt, what is, and you said that the average number of trips have gone up. So we're trying to kind of, and we're talking about living wages, what is necessary in order for the drivers to and own operators to achieve living wages. Have you calculated the amount of trips? You said it's up to about 40 trips per day. How many trips would it be necessary to meet the goal of the average debt, even by your standards?
So the revenue that we're seeing being generated now is on par with the heydays of the industry, when there were no concerns around debt and revenue. And what we need to work on is to ensure that that continues through our CAP, through better regulation of the industry. What we need to really be focused on, in addition to lowering the debt, is to ensure that there is appropriate market share for the medallion owners, and not just the medallion owners who are holding debt. We have 13,587 medallions, and we want to make sure that the entire industry is viable, that it has a secure future in New York City, and that they have an opportunity not just to have market share, but to recapture the market share that they are entitled to and that they once had in New York City. And that is the goal that we all need to work towards collectively. And we cannot do that and ensure that until we resolve the debt issue.
Okay, so certainly, because we want to make sure that we've seen drivers, workers, and so many folks in many different industries around the city really almost the ultimate canary in the coal mine in terms of the amount of hours that folks are actually put behind the wheel and in different professions in order to have a
Time expired.
certain standards. So, certainly we want to ensure that whatever we're doing ensures that people aren't required to work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week in order to have this, to pay debt and have a quality of life as well. So to get us there, certainly we would like to see what those numbers are, as well as, and finally, we know that there was a congressional letter of support that was sent. Was that letter based on financial support, additional stimulus that had already been earmarked or identified for transportation or specifically for this particular industry? Because certainly there's some cost associated with this. There's obviously been the 800-pound elephant in the room that no one has really talked about, whether or not this is viable. If in fact it is not, or whatever the city's contention is, would the additional support from the federal government kind of help us run the plan?
I'm reviewing the letter, and it does not state where the funding should come from.
That being said, is it the contention that the city has exhausted all its financial means in the $65 million?
That is not a question that I have the expertise or ability to answer. However, I can say that based on the conversation that we've been having and all the analysis that the economists have done for the city, that the $65 million should cover restructurings and settlements for all the medallion owners, the individual medallion owners that have need.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Jessica, I don't see another council member.
Oh, Chair, I'll turn it back to you if you have any additional questions for the commissioner.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner, let's just keep working together. A lot of work to be done. I say at the beginning, but definitely we need to follow up with another meeting. So hoping we can coordinate it with you and City Hall to see that meeting happen and be able to go after, with details about your plan. We want any plan that can help the taxi medallion owner to be successful, and that's our responsibility. So thank you for your service. And now we're going to be going to the public. The first panel that will be composed by the leadership of the BRB and Jessica will call them. We will give them 15 minutes so that they can speak mainly on behalf of that taxis and the great group of men and women that have been holding the protest and rally in front of City Hall, raising their voice, speaking on their behalf and the behalf of the family in the city. But after we give them the 15 minutes And I hope that the commissioner can stay around at least for that portion so that she can hear directly from them. And after that, we're gonna be calling other taxi individual. Since we're giving the 15 minutes to the leadership of the panel, gonna be giving 1 minute to the second part of the public. And we hope that we're gonna be very tight, being sure that everyone stay with the 1 minute. So now I turn it back to our lawyer, Jessica.
Thank you very much, Chair. As the Chair just mentioned, we will begin with a panel comprised of Bedavi Desai from the New York Taxi Workers Alliance and Richard Chow, and they will be given 15 minutes for their testimony. Ms. Desai, Mr. Chow, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. My name is Bedavi Desai. I'm the Executive Director of the New York Taxi Workers Alliance. Thank you so much, Chairman Rodriguez and members of the Transportation Committee for holding this hearing. I'm trying to struggle with where to begin. I am a bit shocked by some of the information that I just heard from the chairwoman. First of all, this is the first time the TLC's admitted that they only have money to help 2,250 individuals in need. Now, they've said that they've used smart math to determine that that's the total number of people that need help. At the same time, the chairwoman has said that they are basically gathering data as they go along. So they really don't know. And we're talking about an issue where thousands of people are struggling with lifetime debt and poverty. People facing bankruptcy, the risk of losing their homes, having their wages garnished. This is a serious issue. We've had driver suicides over this issue. We have seen so many families that have had early death, with drivers that have passed away from heart attacks and strokes from the tension of this crisis. And to hear the TLC say to a community of 6,000 families that they basically have only budgeted money to help 2,250 of them is beyond shocking for me. And by the way, when we raised this point 6 months ago, we kept hearing that, no, we're going to be able to, everyone's going to get helped, which again, you heard that today. And I don't know what that means. When you say everyone's going to get help, but oh yeah, the numbers only add up to helping 2,250. So basically what you're saying is you actually believe only 2,250 out of a universe of 6,000, a broader universe of 13,000 are in a crisis? A crisis that's this deep, of this level? That is so shockingly out of touch for me to hear. The second thing, and to council members who have raised the question about a living wage, let's dissect the TLC's numbers together. The TLC chairwoman has said, and this is not the heyday of taxis, by the way, to assert that they're grossing $7,000 a month. That would mean for the year, at $84,000 a year, gross would basically mean $300 gross per shift. Okay, so $300 per shift gross after your annual expenses of, liability, vehicle payments, the taxes, surcharges, gasoline, credit card processing, all of that, you're going to be left with less than $11 an hour, working 60 hours a week throughout the entire year if your mortgage is $1,200 a month. If your mortgage is $1,600 a month, which is what the TLC is saying will be the average mortgage, you're going to be left with earning $9 an hour. If your mortgage now is up to $2,000 a month, because while the TLC has said mortgages will be on average $1,600, their own rules allow the lenders to go up to even $2,000 in order to be eligible for the lender to get the $20,000 cash down payment. And we know the TLC itself knows that these numbers are unsustainable for drivers. That's why in their program, the second half of the program is a subsidy, a $9,000 subsidy, which sure sounds so, sounds so gracious that for 6 months or up to a year, they're gonna allow you $9,000 that you can spend to subsidize your mortgage. But for a working person, for a driver, what that means is they're saying they're gonna leave you with the mortgage that you're gonna need help to pay, and they're gonna give you that help for 6 months to a year. And then after that, sayonara, you're on your own. That's a bridge to bankruptcy. And the biggest lender in the industry, as the TLC well knows, has said that they're going to lower the debts to $275,000 across the board for anybody who's above $300,000. You get a $20,000 cash down payment from the TLC grant program. Your debt will be lowered to $275,000. That will still be lifetime debt in a market where the value is around $100,000. And we've also heard that if the $20,000 doesn't work enough for you to restructure your debt, then they're going to find other means. Let me tell you what those other means are from the conversations our members have had with the TLC's driver resource program. The other means are basically bankruptcy. And the whole purpose of this program is to help people avoid bankruptcy. We are not looking to lower debt. So when you get into bankruptcy, you have a lower liability. That does not qualitatively change people's lives. We are trying to avoid bankruptcy, avoid foreclosure, avoid a need for subsidy. Because when you work 60 hours a week, you should have a dignified living where you don't need a subsidy for your medallion payment or for your groceries and rent. But this program right now is going to leave a large number of drivers dependent on that kind of a subsidy. I'm also really shocked to hear the TLC chairwoman say that the concept of the guarantee is not tested, but that their concept of the $20,000 cash down payment was quote unquote tested. So let's talk about what that test was. You can go back to the newspapers from September 2020 when Marblegate, the largest holder of loans in the industry, talked about having drivers give a $25,000 cash down payment and using that to restructure loans to, you guessed it, $275,000 at an average of $1,600 a month. So the reason this is shocking to me is I would really like to know, did the TLC come up with that structure for Marblegate a year ago and we're just now hearing about it? Or does the TLC consider Marblegate, a private entity's restructuring practice, to be a test for a public program? I think, we want to know that answer. But, the most important question here to us is, if this entire city, we're so thankful to the congressional delegation, to the Medallion Task Force, if this city is dedicated and actually committed to finding a final resolution, then we need one that can stand the test of, will drivers be able to avoid bankruptcy and avoid poverty pay? That is the test. A mortgage of $1,200, $1,600, $2,000 is going to leave workers under the minimum wage. And it's the same agency that has a rule that we fought for that established a minimum wage standard for Uber and Lyft drivers is now going to allow for owner drivers to be at a standard below minimum wage. This is a contradiction, a hypocrisy that is just immoral and, possibly unlawful, by the way. Our program, our proposal it is not such a novel, radical idea. As you know, Councilman Levin and Councilman Rodriguez have said, the Medallion Task Force talked about this. And what we're saying, you know, the controller has vetted it, found it to be fiscally sound. The entire congressional delegation, as well as the majority leader. Does anyone out there think these are offices that would not have vetted a proposal before endorsing it? Like, we are not exactly, you know, a powerhouse like political army here. This was not done as some sort of a favor. This was done after serious individuals vetting a proposal, looking at the numbers, looking at the letters that say that, you know, that the drivers are going to get an offer of $275,000. Now, I understand that the TLC seems to think that that is okay. They think that $1,600, even $2,000 a month that will leave drivers under the minimum wage is somehow okay. But you as council members, do you think that's okay? Do you really want to relegate this workforce, a workforce that is in this crisis of lifetime debt and poverty because of the direct actions of the city of New York? Do you want to leave them in that kind of a predicament? And please don't tell us to wait. The last time we were told to wait and see was in 2015 when the vehicle cap was not passed. And we had Uber, Lyft, yellow, green, livery, black car drivers united on those steps fighting for the vehicle cap. When this body did not vote for it, 3 years later, we were back on the steps, not fighting for the cap, but having vigils for drivers who had taken their own life. Don't tell us to wait. Drivers have waited long enough. We can fix this. The city of $96 billion annual budget was given $6 billion in COVID aid, $2 billion above the deficit. While that might not be in the congressional letter, you can see that in Senator Schumer's testimony during a rally that we had on Zoom. You could hear it with his own voice. The city's got the money. All we're talking about is getting drivers more leverage at the table. Interestingly, when the chairwoman talked about our proposal for the $145,000, she referred to it as, quote, price fixing and treating it as a speculative asset. When she was asked to comment on the congressional delegation talking about $145,000, she said, well, they're just seeking a firm commitment. So are we. We're seeking a firm commitment to allow our members to get their life back. So people don't have to worry that they're going to be in an entire lifetime of debt, that what they were supposed to leave behind for their children instead of an asset will not be in impoverishing debt. Our proposal is sound. The city has the money, and based on everything you heard today, you should understand fully well that it is absolutely necessary in order to get the drivers to the number on their monthly payment, as well as their overall loan that will allow people to survive, avoid bankruptcy, foreclosure, liens on their homes, on their bank accounts, and without working 60 hours, back-breaking weeks in order to survive. Mind you, only half the cabs are even back on the streets right now. 30,000 black cars are not even back on the streets yet. This is not the heyday. This is not the heyday. And you don't regulate. Talk about speculation. You don't come up with a policy for workers based on what you think is a heyday. You don't do that. You look at what you think, you protect workers against the worst of their conditions. That's what the concept of minimum wage is in our labor framework. You don't come up with a debt relief program with a monthly payment that is based on a speculative notion of what you believe is their heyday. Please, council members, get this right. We can fix it. We've got the support, we've got the plan, the city's got the money, we've got the need. The TLC does not have the solution. We're not out here on day 20, 24 hours because this is political theater, because this is fun. These are mothers and fathers. Some of these folks are grandparents. They're out here for a sense of dignity and pride, that we refuse to be cheated out of a solution from a crisis that the city of New York is responsible for. And we're not going to be fed a bunch of lies when they now try to abandon us and claim it as a victory in our name. That's why we're out here. We want a solution. We want our lives back. Add the guarantee to make it a comprehensive program so people can get their lives back. That's what we're asking for. Richard.
Thank you, Bobby. And before, and of course, you know, we're going to be working together. Richard, we're going to be, to end the 15 minutes that we allocate to this panel, we're going to, yes, put you solve on the timing of 3 minutes so that we, after we hear from you two that have been important leaders in this movement, that also we get the time to hear the other brothers and sisters who also will be testifying.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello.
We do. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, everyone. My name is Richard Chow. I'm driving for 16 years. I'm an owner driver. I'm an NYTDA member. I'm 63 years old. CD and TSCs are inflated medallion value, create the bubble, crush the medallion value. 9 drivers committed suicide, including my brother, Kenny Chow, committed suicide near the Gracie Mansion East River. He paid $700,000 for buy the medallion because he's struggling, devastating hardship, financial hardship. He lost everything. He lost the investment. He lost the retirement. He lost the exclusive right. That's why he committed suicide. So on March 17, TSC Commissioner, 2021, TSC Commissioner, me and I conversation with her on the telephone. She promised me bring down my loan 50%. She lied. After 20,000 loan, we will be refinance my loan $275,000. So the Mabagay offered me $275,000, $1,600 a month payment. My principal is $389,000. The commissioner said 50% reduce my loan. That's me $194,000, $194,000 and $500,000. So even $1,600 my loans, I cannot pay. I cannot afford it. I cannot trust that the TSC commissioner keep lying and totally our plans and totally not help us. Allow them, give the room up again, collect $2,000 from us. She lying. Stop lying, please. CD plans and not help us. Her proposal is forcing thousands of owner driver going to the bankruptcy. I have the 2 kids to raise the kid to the college. I have to pay a lot of payment, the taxi insurance, gas bill, toll bill, going back to my Staten Island, maintenance, insurance, TSC and DMV ticket, a lot of household bill. It's a piling up. I cannot breathe. I need air to breathe. You know? So we need a that as soon as possible. That forgiveness as soon as possible. I don't want
Time
to
expired.
Yeah, please give me just 1 a few minutes, that will be continue the circle, the debt circle will continue to foreclosure and bankruptcy, and we cannot survive. We have the tax limousine commissioner plans lock my hand on the wheel for life imprisonment, driving until I die. I don't want to leave my debt to my kid next generation. Please, we want the real debt forgiveness. We want the real debt forgiveness. We want the city best off. We want the city guarantee. We want our life back. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Bob Ravi and Richard. And of course, you know, our prayer to your brothers and those great New Yorkers like your brother that we have lost and their family. And every day when, you know, for the last couple of years, as we've been, you know, working with all of you together in the streets, at the Stereo City Hall, and now these days, you know, at Broadway, here in front of City Hall, I know when we look at your face, that the pain that you have, you know, is the one that represent those that have lost the loved one, that we will never be able to bring them back, but at least we keep fighting to be sure that nobody else go through that situation. So let's just continue together. Like, you know, I think very clear, and Richard too. This is about sitting on the table. We need to be open. There's a plan, and I hope again that in a meeting that I hope that can happen very soon with the OMB, TLC commissioner, the leadership of this group, and stakeholders from the private sector, we should be able to sit on the table and be open, especially to discuss, not only to see what is good on this plan, but also to talk about how a additional $93 million to be spent over the next 30 years can also bring stability and security to those working class people that work so hard with the dream that you can move on, not only to take yourself to be a middle class, but also to educate our children. And many of your children, they're doctors, they are big men already, they're engineer, they're lawyer, they work in the private sector. So thank you. Now we're gonna be, again, this was the most important part, you know, from the leadership of the Taxis Alliance, but now we're gonna be calling, Jessica's gonna be calling the other taxi because of the numbers. We're gonna be asking you to please summarize in 1 minute, whatever it is that you think that you can add to what Verby and Richard already has said. We're gonna be strict with the time. If you think that you have something writing that is more than the 1 minute, yes, summarize. You can send the written testimony, but now we are calling Jessica to please, you know, start calling the members of the public, and the clock will be in 1 minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As the Chair mentioned, we will now turn to the rest of the public testimony. I would like to remind everyone that unlike our typical council hearings, we will be calling individuals one by one. And as the Chair said, each panelist will be given 1 minute to testify. If your testimony is longer and you would like to submit written testimony, please do so by sending it to testimony@council.nyc.gov. For the public testimony, we will first be calling on Assembly Member Mamdani, followed by Zubin Soleimani of NYCHA, followed by Ali Langley of NYCHA. Assembly Member Mamdani, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting
for
time.
For the assembly member, we can put the clock on 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you, Council. I really appreciate the opportunity here to testify in front of this hearing and in front of the many other council members who are on this committee. I want to make clear that I stand wholeheartedly with the New York Taxi Workers Alliance call for a city-backed guarantee. And I had a number of remarks that I had prepared to deliver today, but I think it's important to go over some of what has already been said earlier today to counter some of the narratives that have been put forward. You know, in listening to this testimony, I heard the commissioner of the TLC say that $90 to $93 million over 30 years is an unfair burden on taxpayers, and using that number as a citation of what the city-backed guarantee would cost. It is the city that brought taxi drivers to this point. It is the city that owes a debt to taxi drivers. This amount of money is but a drop in the bucket in terms of what these drivers are owed, in terms of what they were promised and what they have actually been given at this point. And in terms of the larger budget that New York City has, $90 to $93 million over 30 years is nothing. And it is something that can truly be found within the liability budget. $3 million a year is what is being asked for. And the difference that $3 million would make is the ability for drivers to make more than a minimum wage. And I find it extremely offensive to call this plan as a burden to taxpayers, when in fact, all I hear from my constituents who are taxpayers is that they want these drivers to survive. They want them to finally be able to live a life where they're not afraid that they will have their medallions seized, they will have their homes seized, they will have any asset in their name seized by the predatory lenders the city set up to take advantage of these drivers. Additionally, I want to say that we cannot achieve the goals that true relief is consisting of without this guarantee. And any statements made that we can do that is frankly a lie. I would not be pushing the city-backed guarantee. I would not be standing with the entire congressional delegation of New York City, a delegation that disagrees on far more than they agree on, if we did not believe that the guarantee is what was critical to bring this relief. The guarantee is what can bring monthly payments below $1,000 a month. The guarantee is what can ensure that if there is some kind of a default from a driver, that it is not their home and their entire lives that are at stake. A guarantee is what can actually give a 94% immigrant workforce a chance at living out retirement in the way that they were promised by this very city. We are not doing a favor to these taxi drivers by passing this plan. We are simply doing what is owed.
Time expired.
I want to add one additional thing, Sergeant Lugo, which is that I find it very, very strange, to say the least, that the TLC has been trumpeting the achievements of their plan prior to the ratification of that very plan by voting of their own body. How is it that we are told this plan has doled out X amount of $1 million in debt forgiveness and X amount of drivers have been helped when the plan was only approved this week? What kind of a process is this where the results are being put forward before the plan is even being put in place? So I really do think it's important to note that and important to press on that we are not in opposition to the $20,000 or $20,000 that can be given to these lenders. What we are in opposition to is that there must be more than that. There must be a guarantee. We must change the terms of this plan. Everyone is in favor of this. It is simply a question of political will. The TLC and the mayor of this city must change this plan. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you very much, Assembly Member. If the sergeant has put a minute clock on, we will next hear from Zubin Soleimani, followed by Ali Langley, followed by Peter Mazer. Zubin Soleimani, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Good afternoon. This is Zubin Soleimani. I'm a senior staff attorney at the New York Taxi Workers Alliance. And I just want to talk about the fact that the reason it's incumbent upon the city to come up with something better, aside for the reasons that Assemblymember Mamdani and Bayervey just said, is that the current proposal is simply fundamentally legally flawed. The rules that passed on Wednesday are not a legal or rational exercise of agency power. The chair noted that the TLC didn't consult with the council before coming up with these rules, and it doesn't seem clear that they consulted with anybody or any data before coming up with these rules. If the stated goal of the rule is to make medallion loan sustainable, which is what the rules say it is. Sustainable means people don't go into foreclosure and they don't go bankrupt. It doesn't mean they go bankrupt a year from now, paying less payments along the way. It means they don't go bankrupt. This rule doesn't do that. There was no data presented to show, as Councilmember Miller said, that folks would be able to afford a living wage. The chair did not answer that question today, and
Time expired.
Saying that folks would be relieved and happy. That is not the standard. I can wrap up in 10 seconds quickly. So without that purpose being served, the rule simply isn't rational. Data was ignored in this. No bare bones simple analysis was even presented to show that it would meet that standard. We're finding out today that the TLC is getting the data now. And now they're realizing what people will be afford to pay. Now they're realizing what people are making. You have to do that before you pass rules. This is completely backwards. In addition, the process was entirely irregular, just in the fact that the commissioners didn't even receive written comment until the day final rule for vote was posted online. Commissioners said that they had no choice but to act upon the proposal that was presented to them by the mayor. If regulatory rulemaking is simply an up or down rubber stamp on what the mayor is handing down to a commission, that is not an actual deliberative process and is an insult to the invitation for the public and the affected parties to participate in this process. The council needs to force the commission to come up with a real plan that will provide real meaningful debt relief that would actually serve the stated purposes of the rule. Thank you for the extra time, Chair.
Thank you. We will now hear from Ali Langley, followed by Peter Mazer, followed by Sierra Angeles. Ali Langley, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Hi, my name is Ali Langley. I'm a staff attorney at the Taxi Workers Alliance. As we talk about the TLC's plan, it's easy to get lost in the uncontextualized numbers in conversations about market shares and industry trends. But this isn't an academic problem. It's not an abstraction. The cost of this crisis is a human one, and the solution must be centered around the people who are most impacted by this. The people who will be speaking to you today, who are rallying outside your windows, they are the people who will suffer under the TLC's insufficient plan. They will bear the violence of unending poverty. They're the people who won't be able to make rent, who won't be able to put food on the table, who will be evicted from their homes. They're the people whose bodies will bear the beatings of 12 hours a day behind the wheel, 6 days a week, all in service of a monthly mortgage payment that they can't possibly pay. What does a reduction in loan principal mean if you still can't make your monthly payments? What does a reduction in loan principal matter if you still are going to lose your home and savings in foreclosures because your loan principal is still double and triple the value?
Time expired.
1 second to conclude. Too often, council members were faced with problems that we can't solve, but today is not one of those days. There's a clear and simple solution: add a city-backed guarantee to the TLC's program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now hear from Peter Mazer, followed by Sierra Angeles, followed by Rose M. Peter Mazer, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Good afternoon. My name is Peter Mazer. I'm General Counsel to the Metropolitan Taxi Cab Board of Trade. We represent owners and operators of Medallion taxi cabs, and I will address the city's proposal, much of which you've heard, and I will also be supplementing this with written testimony. The rule permitting only owners of 5 or fewer medallions is arbitrary. There's no basis for it. A debt is a debt, whether you own 5 medallions, 6 medallions, or some other number of medallions. The city hasn't pointed out that most lenders are not participating, believing that this is not in their best interest. Borrowers are asked to stretch out payments for 30 or 40 years in order to make the loan restructuring work. And unfavorable terms such as personal guarantees continue to be contained in these unrestructured loans. Significantly, the plan offers nothing to medallion owners who don't have a lot of debt but are unable to get financing to purchase cars or other capital improvements. For true debt relief to work, it is necessary for all lenders to have an incentive to renegotiate. A backstop in the form of a guarantee by a government entity may be the best way to encourage.
Time expired.
If I can just sum up, maybe the best way to encourage lenders to reduce loan balances. Legislation has been introduced at various levels, which would provide loan guarantees to lenders, reduce loan balances to manageable amounts, and make these benefits available to all owners and expand their availability to finance vehicle purchases and other medallion-related needs, and that would be the best approach. I'll also be supplementing this way written testimony, and I thank you for giving me the time to speak today.
Thank you very much for testifying. We will now hear from Sierra Angeles, followed by Rose Imp, followed by Lionel Morales. Sierra Angeles, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Good morning to dear members of the Transportation Committee and TLC Commissioner Aloysia Jarmasuk. On behalf of the base owners and customers we served and our drivers, we respectfully submit the following comments. We are on a state of emergency. Our livery sector is currently dying before our eyes. And I hear a lot about the yellows, but our industry is in the same place. We enjoyed back in 2014 over 27,000 vehicles. Today, we are at 8,000 vehicles. 7 years later, our industry is dying, and I don't see any help coming from the city, nor the city council has proposed any assistance. Today, we are looking for our communities that we cannot continue to serve because the truth is the yellows do not service our neighborhoods. Our livery sector has been pleading for years.
Time expired.
May I sum up?
Yes, please sum up briefly.
In 2018, this cap was placed.
You may use additional 2 minutes so that you can finish your testimony.
I appreciate it, Chairman. Our communities are the ones suffer when the small bases are unable to provide a ride from lack of our cars. And we are forced to deal with surge pricing elsewhere, and our community cannot afford those trips. Our livery sector has been put in a place that these TNC companies have seen an exponential growth. Unfortunately, our livery sector has been dragged along the ride. Our struggling bases are constantly having to tell our customers that we do not have vehicles for them during peak moments. Up to 50% of our calls are going negative every single day due to the lack of vehicles. If any sector should be allowed to add vehicles to service our communities, I repeat that the yellows do not serve. We have asked in the past to the commission to allow us to restricted permits that will allow us to stay in business. This also will allow the drivers who have lost their licenses and cannot work, cannot sustain their families. They are dying and pleading for this. And although we have heard from the commission that is very sympathetic to these issues, we still need city council action. We still need those drivers, the freedom to work in our livery bases and the communities that they're accustomed to serve, the people of color and the immigrants who are stranded every single day. Our bases need to choose how to service these communities and should not be punished, or our passengers in our communities should not be charged amounts of surge pricing that they cannot afford. Our small bases are in crisis. We are, however, optimistic under the leadership of this oversight committee and also
Time
the task
expired.
of Commissioner Aloisi. Her approach of seeing the sectors as separate entities and issue has been very refreshing. Also, the program she installed for drivers is a lifesaver. We also thank Chair Idanis Rodriguez for creating the task force alongside with Chair Aloisi in order to analyze the sector, the needs, and provide a revitalized option for our industry, for the Black cars, for our car services. We look to the city and the TLC again to provide leadership in the state of emergency. We cannot respond to the demand for transportation in our communities. Thank you, and we'll submit the testimony in writing.
Thank you. Sira, I had a specific question.
Yes.
How many livery taxi drivers do we have today? Did we have before this crisis in two particular bases, let's say Seaman, to use them as a sample, Seaman and Riverside car service. Tell me where were those two bases when they had a higher number, and what are those bases today when it comes to Libre Taxi affiliating with those bases?
These two bases have enjoyed basically having 300 to 400 vehicles at a given time, back where the TNCs were not adding all these amounts of vehicles, and they were servicing our communities. But today, bases are, let's say Riverside only has approximately 150 vehicles. Last time I checked, they lost almost 200 to 300 vehicles. And also Seaman has approximately 79 vehicles. So this is the kind of situation that we are in. The calls keep coming in because they like our service, but we unfortunately have to turn these people down.
Thank you. Thank you. And for me, I want to be clear that, you know, as I was stand today at the press conference with our brother from especially the Yellow Taxi and the Taxis Alliance, you know, I spoke very clear that, you know, for me, this is like a crisis that is affecting both. It's affecting the Yellow Taxi medallion, and also it's affecting, you know, the Map and Pop, a small Libre base that for many decades been working together. As I say, I used to be 110 or Caddy car service, Bailey car service, and what through driving a Libre Taxi that I put myself through City College and became a teacher after graduating. So, and I know that my story is the story of many our brothers and sisters who are here. So I know that, you know, unfortunately, the commissioner said, and we both failed because we had the number to pass the cap in 2014 in both sides, but we didn't do it. And I remember that day in the morning, I called a press conference and we had the number, let's vote it. And we started the vote. And now we're paying the consequences to both industry, to the family traditional Black car service, to the Libre bases, and to the Yellow Taxi. So
Chairman,
we cannot go backward now. I'm sorry, we cannot go backward now. But, you know, by no putting the cap in 2014 and looking at the Libre bases difference, as we also, as part of the solution, we do believe that we should create our Libre base type of license, that we should also give some, allow them to increase the number for those who only will be adding new one, only limited to the Libre bases. So I know that the solution to this crisis, beside, you know, the Yellow Taxi, for me, it's a personal also to also fight for the traditional Black car, as also for the Libre bases, because the big one, they will survive. Uber will be here, Lyft will be here. There's a market for everyone, but the price of successful should not be destroying the little one.
I believe that the cap was a one size fits all, and we have shown that we have not grown exponentially that way. We have grown alongside demand, and given the fact that the cap was put in place and over 30,000 licenses are off the streets, I think we have enough to prove that congestion is not going to be a problem, and we will work directly with the Transportation Committee and the TLC to address those concerns.
Thank you. And I appreciate also that as TLC was a partner, you know, during the discussion together with the leadership of the Taxis Alliance, the academic sector, private sectors, and the council on the working around the Yellow Taxi Medallion Task Force. I also have seen how the commissioner have been consistently present in the Libre and Black car taxi task force that we have right now. And even though at some point myself and I've been there, my staff, Evelyn, who do budget legislation, is always there. So I also appreciate. We just want to move from the recommendation to the action. So again, as we will hope that to have meeting very soon with City Hall to talk about what other things can be done beside this initiative that already started implemented by City Hall. We also like and will continue working around the Libre and Black car medallion. So thank you, City.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chair. We will now hear from Rose Imp of CUNY, followed by Lionel Morales, the New York City Black Car Fund, followed by Avik Cabeza of Carmel and the Livery Roundtable. Rose Imp, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, council members. My name is Rose Imperato, and I'm a concerned citizen here in New York City, along with, I can't even imagine the number, the thousands and tens of thousands of concerned citizens as we've learned horrifying details and educated ourselves about this issue over the last 6-7 years that this has been happening. And as a consequence of that, I have actually gone down to the 24/7 protest that's going on right now several days over the last 20 days and have offered help in my voice as a concerned citizen. And I had somebody come up to me yesterday and say, I support you, but you're not going to be able to save these drivers. You're not going to get them out of poverty. The city council isn't going to be able to help them. And I said, why do you say that? And he said, because the banks have already gotten their money and banks are way more powerful. And I'm here to say, I believe in my city council. I believe that you care. I know most of you, I've seen you in action and you care. And I
Time
feel
expired.
like, I'll wrap, Sergeant. I feel like you won't be talked about in the news if the banks win again. That's old news. Everybody expects it, like this guy who said this to me yesterday. But you will make the news if you are the heroes here. If you step up and say, okay, this is a difficult thing to do, we're going to get it done. We're going to make sure that these drivers live, that they survive, that they get out of poverty, that this horrifying scenario, and New Yorker magazine, I don't know if people read this magazine. Can you see what's right here? It's a yellow, okay? This cab, they did a cover to say magic formula. All these things equal New York. All these things equal New York. I know, Chairman, you've spoken to my students about leadership and diversity, and many of these cab drivers, they have accents.
Sorry, thank you. And I'm sorry, Miss.
Yes, I'll just
Thank
wrap
you.
2 seconds. These cab drivers have accents. Don't let immigrant cab drivers with accents be squelched and that their voices are not worth hearing. And I believe in you. You can make history. You can make news. Please, City Council, do the right thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and apologies for mispronouncing your name. We will now hear from Lionel Morales, followed by Avik Cabeza, followed by Quidratala Saberi. Lionel Morales, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Good afternoon, Chair Rodriguez and members of the Transportation Committee. My name is Lionel Morales, and I'm the Communications and External Affairs Specialist for the Black Car Fund. Chair Rodriguez is very familiar with the fund, but for those who aren't, the fund was created by New York State statute in 1999 with the purpose of providing workers' compensation coverage to Black car drivers throughout New York. Over the years, the fund has grown to over 500 member bases, and we cover an estimated 100,000 drivers throughout New York. We're also proud to have added many additional free health and wellness related benefits, including 24/7 telemedicine coverage, vision coverage, dental insurance, prescription urgent care and diagnostic imaging discounts, a mental health and wellness program that's administered by the Independent Drivers Guild, and an additional $50,000 death benefit above what is mandated by state law if a driver dies while on the job. We have created an invaluable safety net for drivers, but unfortunately, all the benefits in the world can't change the fact that the traditional Black car industry has been decimated by the COVID-19 pandemic. For example, take a look at the congestion surcharge revenue brought to the city by the FHV industry. Compared to 2019 and early 2020, the surcharge amount being generated by the FHV industry
Time expired.
is at least 25%. I'll probably finish in like 30 seconds. Thank you.
Please
This figure,
wrap
while
it.
staggering, doesn't tell the full story. At the height of the pandemic, traditional Black car bases were down as much as 95% in business, while high volume FHVs were down 80%. Since then, traditional Black car bases have only recovered are still down 40 to 45%.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. You can submit the rest of the testimony via written. Thank you so much. We will next hear from Avik Cabeza, followed by Quidratala Saberi, followed by MDZ Islam. Avik Cabeza, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
And we will give a big 3 minutes, a big, but no 1 second more. Yes, 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chairman.
Starting time.
Good afternoon. My name is Avik Cabeza. I'm a member of the Livery Roundtable and the CEO of Carmel. And we really don't mind using our tax dollars to help the taxis. But I'm here to emphasize that we also, delivery and the for-hire traditional, need help. Unfortunately, what I heard today is the TLC commissioner 3 times praising the decline of the for-hire vehicle as means of increasing the value of the yellows. This is not the way, this is not the role of the TLC to prefer one group over the other. So I'm going to urge the city council to intervene and make sure that the right goal of helping, exactly what this oversight hearings is, relief, taxi medallion relief, and supporting the black car and livery service, be the outcome of this call. And our solutions are very, very simple. I think the chair, you mentioned it. We did not cause the congestion. We did not cause the overflow of vehicles. We should not be penalized for it. And as Sarah from the Livery Based Owner Association mentioned, the taxi do not serve the areas we do. All we are asking the city council is to force the TLC, or to assist the TLC, or to encourage the TLC, or to do whatever needs to be done with the TLC. We offered that solution almost 2 years ago and a year ago. We would like a restricted livery or traditional for-hire permit to be added on a moderate level that cannot be dispatched by the high-volume services. Therefore, the high-volume services cannot sort of find a back door to more vehicles, so we can service our need. We reject 50% of our customers. We say, sorry, no car, and they have to go and pay 300 times what we charge with Uber and Lyft. So we urge the commission, the city council, that part of this passage of the relief for the taxi, which we will gladly participate, that there will be a condition of allowing a restricted permit for the traditional basis livery, so that they cannot be dispatched by high volume. And the second thing, because of this cap, many people who it was their first entry to this industry rented a car, and for years they are paying for rent a car. They know they want to make it their livelihood. They want to make it their business, but they are forced to keep on renting and pay exuberant money to renters because they cannot obtain their own permit. So we would ask the city council to please, one, issue the restricted license to help us. It's a moderate. Two, allow those who rent vehicles over a year
Time
to
expired.
whatever you decide to buy to get a permit. Thank you very, very much for the time, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. We will now hear from Quadratala Saberi, followed by MDZ Islam, followed by Gerson Fernandez. Quadratala Saberi, you may start when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for letting me participate in this today's session. My name is Saberi, and I'm a driver for 34 years. I've been driving for 34 years, and I don't have any retirement. I lost because the value of the medallion came down. And we know that the reason the medallion came down is the decision of the city official. You know, that anybody who did it. But at this point in time, I'm 70 years old. I cannot drive more than maybe 7 to 8 hours. And how can I pay that the $1,600 a month for the bank? And the MRP is now working for us because it let the bank raise our payment, monthly payment, up to $2,000. And
Time expired.
Yeah, I can survive only for $800 a month at this age, and cannot be more than that. If it's more than that, I will have to go for bankruptcy. And that the city plan that has, it takes me back to the part of bankruptcy. Again, I have to go for bankruptcy. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. We will now hear from MDZ Islam, followed by Gerson Fernandez, followed by Suva Baraji. MDZ Islam, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
We are unable to hear you. Can you please make sure that your speakers are on?
Hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Sergeant, if you could just restart the clock at 1 minute, please. Thank you.
Thanks for giving me the time. I'm a owner driver. I'm a member of Taxi Worker Alliance. I believe that this country is an opportunity. This country is an hope. But now this country is the nightmare for me. I trusted the city. I trusted the TLC, but they failed. They failed me. But they inflated the price. I bought the medallion. Now the medallion price goes down. We already lost our 9 brothers, including three owner drivers. How many blood you need? Now it's time to clean up your hand. You should come step up and take actions to save our lives. This is the time. You should do something. Now the city's plan, that is not working for us. We need actual relief. The medallion restructure should be as per the market value, and the payment should be below $800. Then we can survive. We can bring our
Time expired.
Our kids can we can send our kids in the school. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We will now hear from Gerson Fernandez, followed by Suva Baraji, followed by Augustine Tang. Gerson Fernandez, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
My name is Justin Fernandez. I'm a yellow battalion owner. I'm driving a yellow cab from 2000. I'm 67 years old. I'm with the New York City Taxi Alliance. Our leader is Ms. Bhairavi Desai. I bought a medallion because at that time, it was a good way of earning money, taking care of my family and paying the bills. We were 13,587 yellow taxis. Then in 2014, the city and TLC allowed Uber, Lyft, and other app companies to infiltrate the taxi business. That's when the taxi business was in a mess for all. In 2 or 3 years, the Uber, Lyft, etc. had about 110,000 cars on the road. Driving was a mess, and there was no business for any of us. I don't mind Uber, Lyft joining the competition, but the city and TLC should have regulated them. Because of this, our medallion price went down, and with very little business for the yellow
Time
cab
expired.
it was difficult for me to pay my bills. Please help me with our debt forgiveness. You can talk to our leader, Ms. Desai, and she will enlighten you on how with this procedure.
Please finish up.
Just a little bit. I love driving my yellow taxi and enjoy my job. Thank you very much for the chance to speak.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
We will now hear from Suva
Thank you.
Baraji.
I'm sorry for that.
I'm sorry, Chair.
So
Okay,
I'm saying that I appreciate, that the previous
Chair, I'm sorry, we're unable to hear you.
Workers being able to share, and I.
Chair, I believe we're having some technical difficulties with your mic.
All that you hear is here so many great New Yorkers. So, working together, we should be able to put a solution to this crisis, but our solidarity to you. And
Thank you, Chair. We will now hear from Suva Baraji, followed by Augustine Tang, followed by Harjit Singh. Suva Baraji, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hello. Hi. Are you hearing?
Yes, we can hear you.
Please continue.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am street fighter now. Name is Shubhesh Boiragi. I am professional taxi driver. I am serving in this city 23 years as a taxi driver. We are here 20 days front of our honorable city mayor house. I think everybody knows why we are here. Our demand, we want justice. Especially, I want to know where is my money, 100,000 I gave to the city 2014. My family want to know. This society want to know. I paid $6,000 every month for this medallion from 2014 to 2017. Still, I have debt
Time
more than
expired.
700,000 on my shoulder. Please, I additional time, please. I am very, very sick now. I had eye surgery last May 9, 2021. I bought this medallion, 850, 100,000. After bought this medallion.
If you could please sum up.
Please, additional time, please.
Okay, 1 more minute.
I am very, very sick now. I had eye surgery last May 9, 2021. I bought this medallion, 850, 100,000. After bought this medallion, within a 1 month, 1,000 Uber Lyft came on the street. Medallion price goes down. It's completely manipulate the city. Everybody knows except mayor. Only the mayor ignore us. You know why? Because we are immigrant. I want to say to mayor, you remember today you mayor only for immigrant voters. We respect you. You have to respect us. We want to expecting like this. No respect, no justice, no peace. I want to salute all of my friends who suicide for death. But I am not
Thank
going
you.
to
Thank you,
suicide
sir.
now.
Thank you.
I
Sir,
will
thank
try
you.
to find out.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We will now hear from Augustine Tang, followed by Harjit Singh, followed by Mohammed Tipu Sultan. And I just want to remind everyone that if your testimony is longer than the 1 minute allotted, please submit written testimony to testimony@council.nyc.gov, and it will all be considered. Augustine Tang, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Hi, my name is Augustine Tang. I'm 37 years old and I've been a taxi driver for 6 years. I inherited a medallion from my father and also a $530,000 loan. For what the city's plan will give me is it will make, my lender is Marblegate, and it will make my monthly payment $1,600 and it will drop it down to $275,000. I, for one, I know that I won't be able to pay manage this monthly mortgage because of how much high expenses that comes with taxi cab, along with the fees, congestion surcharge. On average, let's just say, I remember TLC commissioner was saying that on average people are grossing $7,500. I'm assuming that's gross because there's no way people are making $7,500 with the amount of traffic that has been in the city as of late, and it's just going to be getting worse. And that's $2,000 of that is going straight to congestion surcharges and also the taxi improvement charge. You're talking about
Time expired.
$1,600 with that, and additionally with $700 car payment, $300 liability insurance, it's going to be very difficult to make ends meet. Yeah. So basically, I really urge the city council to really understand how much that goes into the medallion and adopt New York Taxi Workers Alliance's plan. For us, for many of us, we're all really struggling, barely, and on average, a lot of these medallion owners
Thank you very much, Mr.
$25,000 in credit card fees because of what the city.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your testimony. We will now hear from Harjit Singh, followed by Mohammed Tipu Sultan, followed by Jose Herrera. Harjit Singh, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm sorry about that. I'm having connectivity issues. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Harjit Singh, and I'm the son of a taxi driver. We owe $500,000 on our medallion. My dad cashed out his life insurance policy for $35,000. We owe 2 credit cards. One's $25,000, the other one's $18,000. 6 years ago, my father and a couple hundred Sikh South Asian and Satnam Prahar came and called on the city for our livelihoods and the medallions crushing. Those years of inaction from the city and TLC cost my family $3,000 a month, $36,000 a year, and over the course of 5 years cost $180,000. And we still owe $500,000 today. So for those that say take the current form of the program and wait, I say no, we can't. For every month we wait, we are figuratively burning money by payments to an underwater, unmodified loan. The city's proposal modifies the loan as high as $330,000. Taxi Workers Alliance
Time expired.
reduces this to $145,000. The value is only $100,000. If you don't believe me, check the TLC's website for the current foreclosures for September of 21. The rest I'll submit.
Thank you very much. Yes, if you could please submit it via written testimony. Thank you for your testimony. We will now hear from Muhammad Tipu Sultan, followed by Jose Herrera, followed by Vinod Malhotra. Muhammad Tipu Sultan, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Yeah, we can talk.
Hello.
We can talk. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Please begin.
Hello. Hi, good afternoon. And Tipu went to the pray and he gave me his sign. My name is the Tarseem Lal, and my I driving the cab 31 year, and my age is 31 year, and my age is 61, and my payment is 3,942 and 43 cents, and plus repair and plus other expenses, and I keep my medallion, and I enjoy my driving the cab. I'm very much. I try to give the good service all over the world in my taxi, and I try to more. I try to give them more service to the public, and public they like me, and I try to.
Time expired.
And please help me, and I speak a little English, and I try to get a good service of the world, and my payment is too much, and I can afford that. I want the new car and $1,000 plus, and I can pay that one,
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your testimony. We will now hear from Jose Herrera, followed by Vinod Malhotra, followed by Shime Gyatso. Jose Herrera, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Jose Herrera, are you there?
Yes. Hello.
Okay, please begin. We can hear you now.
Okay. I drive a taxi 35 years. And then right now it's impossible to pay the mortgage because it's not a competition. I'm very sorry. And then too many taxes, congestions, insurance. Forget it. This business is destroyed right now. That's all I had to say right now. That's it. Do you listen to me?
Thank you very much for your testimony. We will now hear from Vinod Malhotra, followed by Shime Gyatso, followed by, please hold a minute, followed by Tilak RJ. Vinod Malhotra, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Hello, good morning. Hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, good morning, all CMs. Thanks for holding the end-cap death. This is a really very, very important and necessary for life savings. Medallion owners who really underwater on their no fault due to app companies, not due to COVID. Sir, we don't want bankruptcy. We bought your medallion as our big dreams. We love this iconic taxi permit. I don't know you about if you love, you must come up with the real debt forgiveness by the NYT plan. There's nothing wrong. This is win-win-win for everyone. Sir, as you know, I attended so many hearings. It's a long time waited when I saw there is no any output, no any actions. Look to protect our medallion after feeling most hearings like fake to me. I decided to go for bankruptcy. So when we do bankruptcy, we lost almost $100,000. which is we spent on as down payment. Is $100,000 equal to 1 million for us because
Time expired.
We work very, very hard, sir. I have 3 kids. They are going to college. So I don't see any way how can I pay their survive them or how can I pay their expense. So please and help the rest of my friends that don't let them go the bankruptcy. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. We will now hear from Chimi Guyatso, followed by Tilak RJ, followed by Wayne Chin. Chimi Guyatso, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Hello, yes, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Chimi Gyatso. I'm driving a taxi since 2000. I bought a medallion like 2009. Since then, I was enjoying an American dream. And since after 2014, like, TLC give a permit to the unregulated car. So then so our business totally gone down. So, according to the TLC plan, that doesn't work for us. $1,600 we cannot pay. So according to the TWIA plan, please, with that plan, we can work. And then, the mayor and the TLC throw us in the Hudson River. Please, you gotta save us from the Hudson River. Save us from the Hudson River. So, 9 drivers already suicide. Now I think this is my turn. My turn. I mean, this because of this medallion, every time we fight.
Time expired.
Please help us. Please help us. Help us, please.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We will now hear from Tilak RJ, followed by Wayne Chin, followed by Balkar Singh. Tilak RJ, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Time expired. Time starting.
Thank you. Good evening, council member, to having me. My name is Jean Tanis. My medallion number is 6F20. I am a 73-year-old driving taxi for straight 34 years. I am a member of Taxi Workers Alliance with Design. I have a loan before with Melrose paying straight $2,772. That means $33,267 a year. Now I have a loan with Marbogate, Field Point, De Palma. But since the pandemic, I stay home with my taxi, with insurance, everything for $3,465 yearly for 2 years now. I can't go to work for some health issue. I am waiting for debt forgiveness.
Time expired.
For $125,750 monthly, then I can survive. On Field Point gave me 2 offers. First payment, $750 for 3 months and $20,000 from TLC. And my loan will be down to $275,000 and $1,650.
Thank you very much for your testimony. If you could please submit the rest in writing, we appreciate it. Thank you. We will now hear from Wayne Chin, followed by Balkar Singh, followed by Pabitra Saha. Wayne Chin, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Hi, my name is Wayne Chin. I own a driver and also a member of the Taxi Workers Alliance. The DSC plan doesn't go far enough to help all the driver. We need a backstop to the plan so all the owner can survive. And because TSC plan, I stay paying. We stay paying 2,000 a month. So plus my giga expense, operating expense, insurance, gas, it's going to be like over 4,000 a month. My operating expense. So the TSC chairwoman saying we're making 7,000 a month. I have 2,000 left. How am I going to pay my rent, pay the food? So it doesn't make sense. The number doesn't add up, because we have to bring the payment to no more than $800 a month so we can survive. So bring it to at the best out to the loan, bring the principal down, payment down. That's all we're asking. Let us survive.
Time expired.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We will now hear from Balkar Singh, followed by Pabitra Saha, followed by Dorothy LeConte. Balkar Singh, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Hello, my name is Balkar Singh. I'm driving like a 32 year and my payment is 2735 and I don't like the TLC plan and I want to keep my medallion and city plan is no good. I want to pay only $800 plus more other expensive and I have children and family. Please, city council, please save our life. You can save us. City and TLC want to destroy everything. Please save the taxi industry. You the good, you the best. God bless you. Please save our life. Nobody listens. TLC chairwoman never come here. Mayor never come here. Nobody want to come here. Please, Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Chairman, God bless you and all you city council committee. Please save our life. We are immigrant. I live here like a 35 year. I drive 32 year. Please save our life. We are immigrant. We are all color man and woman. Please
Time expired.
save our life. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We will now hear from Pabitra Saha, followed by Dorothy LeConte, followed by Randall Wilhite. Pabitra Saha, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. All of the respected person, chairperson, TLC commissioner, and Senate members, council members, all of them. So I cannot explain my whole story more than Ms. Bhairavi Desai is explained everything, and I like to support her. And this is the all we can say. And rest of the decision of yours and all of the official peoples, please try to see us and what you can do. Let us know. Previously, there was so many kinds of meeting was going on, and we are on in front of the city hall 24 hours, 7 days a week. So please help us. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We will now hear from Dorothy LeConte, followed by Randall Wilhite, followed by Muhammad Islam. Dorothy LeConte, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
My name is Dorothy LeConte. I'm in this fight from the beginning. I understand the commissioner means she means all good things for us, but it's not. Because at my age 65, starting a yellow cab, driving a cab since 1987, that's made 35 years. I was expecting to retire with dignity. I did not expect to go back. A business that I have right now, they turn it as a swept shop. It's not a business for me, it's a job. If I want to buy a job, I will not buy a yellow cab right now. So I can afford $1,748 a month, but they only take about the medallion. What about our private life? We have other expenses, our household, our life, what it is, there's nothing for us. We cannot sit down and
Time
work
expired.
the medallion. So please, I adopt the backstop for the city, and I hope the city council help us out with this. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We will now hear from Randall Wilhite, followed by Muhammad Islam, followed by the second Muhammad Islam. Randall Wilhite, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Good afternoon. My name is Randall Wilhite, and I'm a staff attorney at the New York Legal Assistance Group. I'm testifying today in my personal capacity and not on behalf of NYLAG. Since TLC announced its medallion relief program in March 2021, NYLAG's attorneys and I personally have spent countless hours speaking with the industry's different lenders about their willingness to participate in the relief program. I am testifying today because I am deeply concerned about a pattern of misrepresentations that the TLC has been making about the success of this program. I only have time to provide one example today, but I look forward to following up with written testimony. In its statement of basis and purpose of the proposed rules for the relief program, published in mid-August, the TL stated, quote, the TLC's Owner Driver Resource Center has worked with over 700 medallion owners and a dozen different lenders on renegotiating loans. Lenders have participated in the process and have offered restructuring and forgiveness terms that would meet the required parameters of the proposed rules.
Time
This is a
expired.
complete fabrication. When this statement was published, at most 2 lenders had made any specific commitments to provide amounts of loan forgiveness through restructurings that would allow borrowers to qualify for grants under the program. Instead, multiple lenders have expressly indicated that they are not interested in participating in the program, at least with respect to any significant number of borrowers. Another lender, one of the largest in the industry, has been so disinterested
Please, if
that
you
it
could
has
please
not been.
summarize and then submit the rest in writing.
Thank you. I urge you in the strongest possible terms to investigate the administration of this program, look beyond the misleading press releases and beyond the deceptive testimony of the commissioner. This program has never made sense. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We will now hear from Muhammad Islam, followed by Muhammad Islam, followed by Tariq Munir. Muhammad Islam, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Yeah, my name is Mohammed Islam. I driving at 23 years in yellow taxi driver. I am agree with Taxi Worker Alliance plan. City Hall, I am highly request to you please save us. TLC try to do following aggressive lender plan. Why I say aggressive? Only 1 month mispayment, they took my medallion. I am suffering 4 months, 5 members in my family. Please do not work for lender, work for immigrant hardworking taxi driver. I do not want suicide or bankruptcy. I want favorite, lovely taxi driver for TLC. Please, you have power. You have power. Please do something for us. Debt forgiveness. Please do something. We want a life. 5 member, we have a dream. Thank you very much. Thank you for helping us. All of member, I am very excited to in front of you guys. Please help us. Have a good day.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We will now hear from Muhammad Islam, followed by Tariq Munir, followed by Ibrahim Diallo. There's another Muhammad Islam. Please begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Hi, this is Mohammed Islam. I have been driving my yellow cab is 22 years. I have a loan is 536,000 Malibu grade, offering my 275 to restructure under the TLC plan. And I have the TLC and city inflate the medallion price. My loan NYTWA the proposal is $145,000. The monthly payment is $800. I want the Citibank stop. I cannot afford the TLC plan. So I want a real debt forgiveness. I want a justice. I want a
Time
real
expired.
life, my life back. Thank you so much. Help me us. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We will now hear from Tariq Munir, followed by Ibrahim Diallo, followed by Nina Odashi. Tariq Munir, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Hi, good
Starting
afternoon.
time.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Tariq Munir. The TLC give the plan. That's not affordable plan. It is for us. I work 10 hours, but cannot make money for living. Taxi Workers Alliance are our representative. We suggest a plan, and she is working on it. That is very good plan to make the balance down like 145, and monthly payment will be like $800. This proposal is very good for taxi drivers, taxi owners. This proposal is a life for me and other drivers. In this way, I can save myself from bankruptcy. Please help old owners, drivers, so they can enjoy their rest of their life. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We will now hear from Ibrahim Diallo, followed by Nina Godashi, followed by Erhan Tansal. Ibrahim Diallo, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Hi, my name is Ibrahim Diallo. I am a staff attorney at the New York Taxi Workers Alliance. You've heard a lot of stories today from drivers, from experts, from their advocates. I wanted to just focus on the objective measurements of whether this plan is working. And I think anyone who looks at it will come to the conclusion that the TLC is just putting a Band-Aid on this crisis. The chair herself recognized that the most important measurement of resolving this problem is whether drivers could afford their monthly payments. Last time she was here in front of you all, she said, and I'm quoting here, "My goal is to work with the council and drivers to find a solution to reduce driver monthly payments to less than $1,000 a month." That's what she told this council before. Now the TLC has come up with a plan where they are saying it's going to cost anywhere between $1,500 to $2,000 a month. That is 50 to 100% more than what the chair herself said the goal should be.
Time expired.
If I could wrap up quickly. So now the TLC is recognizing that the problem with this plan, and they're saying again, making another commitment that they're going to subsidize loans. How long will this be? The subsidy will be for a year. Will every driver get this? Is the TLC are they making another empty promise to a workforce that has lived through a series of broken promises? There's a better solution that does not cost as much. You should adopt the NITRO plan, or call on the TLC and the mayor to adopt the NITRO plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We will now hear from Nina Godashi, followed by Erhan Tansal, followed by Nizam Ahmed. Nina Godashi, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Nina Godashi, are you there? If someone could please unmute Nina Godashi. Okay, we will come back to Nina Godashi. Seems there might be some technical difficulties there. So let's move on. We will now hear from Erhan Tansal. Erhan Tansal, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Hi, my name is Erhan Tansal. I'm a yellow medallion taxi owner driver of 22 years. I gave my best years to the taxi industry, and I did so with the expectation of being taken care of in my golden years. That's what the city of New York made us believe. I will turn 62 next March. I'm one of those almost senior owner drivers whose light at the end of the tunnel has been put out by the complacency of our regulators. We need a real solution, and that solution lies in the proposal by the Taxi Workers Alliance with a city guarantee, a proposal which puts the owner drivers back on the road, making a living wage. I'd like to end my testimony with a quote by Benjamin E. Mays. The tragedy of life is not found in failure, but complacency. Not in you doing too much, but doing too little. Not in you living above your means, but below your capacity. The means have been provided by the federal government. Now we need this great city of ours to live up to its full capacity and end this horrible nightmare owner drivers.
Time expired.
Today. I'd like to point out time is of essence. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's try and see if Nina Godashi, are you available or are you able to testify?
Starting time.
Okay, we will try you again at the end of the public testimony. We will now turn to Nizam Ahmed, followed by Val George, followed by Joan Botex. Nizam Ahmed, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Okay, my apologies. It does not look like Nizam Ahmed is with us or is, excuse me, on the panel. So let's go to Val George. Val George, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Please accept or decline.
Hi, everybody. Where to start? I don't know. Just one word. We'd be shameful if we all of us make an effort to save the yellow taxi, which everybody knows that it's one of the landmark of the New York City. Would you live without the Statue of Liberty or the Empire State Building or Times Square? We need to do that. It's a historical moment. Let's do it, and the history probably in the city will be thankful to us. Adopt, please, Ms. Desai and the New York Taxi Workers Alliance plans. Makes a lot of sense, backed up by economists, professionals. The CEO, the financial officer of the New York City, the controller, said this plan is absolutely viable and realistic. Please look at it. If you have a questions, call the Ms. Desai.
Time expired.
Everything to you. Thank you. That's all I need to say. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Okay, I see that Nina Godashi is on the screen. So Nina Godashi, you may begin when the sergeant calls time and you are unmuted. Please make sure to unmute your mic.
Starting time.
You are, Nina Godashi, you are still muted. You should receive a message that asks you to unmute your phone. Are you able to unmute? Okay, you are still unmuted. Someone should be asking you if you would like to unmute your phone, if you could do that. Okay, it appears that we are still having some technical difficulties. I apologize for that. Okay, Nina, we will come back to you because we do want to hear your testimony. So we will try and sort out those technical difficulties. Let's turn now to Joan Botex, followed by Mahmoud Hossein, followed by Mofizul Islam. Joan Botex, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
My name is Joan Botex, and I'm speaking to you on behalf of my husband, Etienne Botex, who drove taxi for 45 years. The yellow cab was his income to support his family, but due to medical issue coupled with age, he had to lease his medallion. The initial lease income was $3,200 monthly. As the industry crashed, his income declined to $1,500 and to $950 pre-pandemic. Loan payment of $3,500 pre-pandemic and a loan balance of $550,000. On 10/6/21, the leasing company, White and Blue, sent a letter stating monthly payment will be $200 due to the medallion crisis. Since March of 2020, we have had no income from White and Blue. Please accept the New York Taxi Alliance proposal so that drivers can have the quality of life they deserve. As of this moment, my husband has nothing. There are drivers who has the same situation. Please understand our struggle. And
Time expired.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We will now hear from Mahmoud Hussein, followed by Mofizul Islam. Mahmoud Hussein, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
My apologies. Is it Shakawat Hussein? Shakawat Hussein? You may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Starting time.
Shakawat Hussein, if you could unmute your mic when you receive the request to unmute, and then we will be able to hear you. Okay, we will try you again in a little bit. Let's go now to Mofizul Islam, followed by Sami Khan. Mofizul Islam, you may begin when the sergeant calls time.
Time starts now.
Okay, let's move on to Sami Khan. Sami Khan, you may begin when the sergeant calls time, and please, when you are asked to unmute your mic, please accept that.
Time starts now.
Sami Khan, if you are there, please unmute your mic. Okay, we will proceed with Shishir Roy, followed by Sultan Khan. Shishir Roy, please begin when the sergeant calls time.
Time starts now.
Okay. We will move then to Sultan Khan. If Sultan Khan is still on the panel, please unmute your mic when the sergeant calls time.
Time starts now.
Okay, let's see if we can go back to Nina Godashi, and I apologize for whatever technical difficulties we may be having. Nina Godashi, are you able to unmute your mic now? If you are unable to unmute your mic, we do want to hear everyone's testimony. So please submit it. Again, you can submit it via email to testimony@council.nyc.gov, and you can do that up to 72 hours after the hearing. Okay. If I have inadvertently missed anyone that is registered to testify today or who is on the panel, and I have yet to call your name, please use the Zoom raise hand function now, and you will be called on in the order that you have raised your hands. Okay, I see that Jaslyn Kaur has a raised hand. Jaslyn Kaur, please begin your testimony when the sergeant calls time.
Time starts now.
Sure. Good afternoon. Thank you so much. My name is Jasleen Kaur. I'm the daughter of a 62-year-old taxi medallion owner driver in Queens, and I'm about to share what I've shared many times over. In 2014, when the medallion markets crashed, I was meant to drop out of university. So my family went into $60,000 down on student loan debt, $50,000 down on medallion debt, many thousands in credit card debt, and 3 years back on property taxes. To put it plainly, many more drivers than the 9 who took their own lives in the past years will not survive this debt crisis. 94% of drivers are immigrants, many who work more than 12 hours a day. And what the city has done, from speculation on fragile markets to allowing Uber and Lyft into the city, is disgraceful, horrific, and orchestrated. The city-backed guarantee plan from the New York Taxi Workers Alliance is key, and without it, drivers are at the mercy of their lenders. TLC has even yet to garner buy-in from enough lenders to make their plan viable. I will wrap up. The average debt of $500,000 under their plan would still be in $300,000 of an amount for many drivers. So I want to know, where is the dignity in having just a little bit less debt than you did 7 years ago? And who else do you need in addition to Senator Schumer, the incoming and outgoing controllers, 12 members of the New York congressional delegation, to tell you that the New York Taxi Workers Alliance plan is sound?
Thank you very much for your testimony. We have a hand raised from Galina Kaminker. Galina Kaminker, you may start your testimony when the sergeant calls time.
Time starts now.
Hi, my name is Galina Kaminker, and I'm a medallion owner, and I'm a member of few medallion owners within my family, but today I want to speak up in regards to my mother. I understand everybody's talking about driver owners. My mother is not a driver. She's a 90-year-old woman who was left for my father, who wasn't a driver owner, and who tried to build a backup for her retirement. He's gone, my father. My mother is 90 years old, left with 6 medallions altogether, different whatever. She's not entitled to any rescue program, from the relief program, because she's more than 5, but she's in debt, big debt. Right now, she's on her Social Security, which is $700 a month. She's not getting any money from management because of the pandemic crisis and everything. She is actually the bank is going after her. They're putting a judgment on her. My question is, what do people who are 90 years old or even 70 years old, have no income, cannot pay their debts, have to live that long? Because I guess she's unfortunately she lived that long, because she has no money to pay. What I'm asking is, actually she's entitled to restitution. The city owns it to us. They took the money from us. They used it to close the loopholes. We were fine, but now she needs to be rescued. And the restitution is a rescue for my mother, because TLC will not help her. And I have to pay her expenses every month, because otherwise she'll be on the street. With $700, tell me if you're capable of living in New York City. She used to pay the taxes was her retirement plan.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Thank you very much for your testimony. It appears we have one additional hand raised. Tilak RJ, if you have not testified already, please start your time when the sergeant calls time.
Time starts now.
Now I have. Good afternoon.
We can hear you.
Yes. Hi, good afternoon, council members. I speak behalf of my brother. My brother has a medallion since 1994. His loan is over than 500. After the 20 from TLC has loan will be 275 and 1600 every month. How we will survive? We cannot live like this rest of our life. The city should support our union plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. And thank you to all who have testified today. I will now turn it back over to Chair Rodriguez for closing remarks. Chair Rodriguez.
Thank you, Jessica, for the great job that you did conducting, this portion of this hearing. Thank you to the commissioner for also staying with us and listening to everyone. I gotta give credit for her to not only to leave a representative, but to be with us. I appreciate it. We will continue this conversation. Thank you to the Taxis Alliance. Together, we had the responsibility to bring the industry back. Let's do it in the name of those individuals that unfortunately we lost. Let's do it for our families, and let's do it for the future New York City. Thank you. And with that, this hearing is adjourned.